Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's that time again. Tuesday of the week, episode 129 of From the Sidelines is coming at you right now in your eardrums, or maybe through your eyes if you're watching us on video on YouTube or Spotify. We appreciate everyone who tunes in every week, and guys, you're going to be rewarded this week. We've got a very fun and exciting, not only guest, but just show in particular. We've been talking about it all off season. Ladies and gentlemen, the conspiracy theory episode is here. We are very excited to get into this, but before we do, we've got a lot of housekeeping things that we got to talk about first, and before any of those can happen, I got to bring in my co-hosts. They're here every week on the show. We appreciate them, appreciate their dedication to the cause of From the Sidelines. Stephen Hatch, how you doing, man? Could you picture us doing this 2 years ago when we started?
You know, honestly, if you were like, Hatch, we're going to do a research project and present it on a podcast, I would have been like, absolutely not, bro. No way. Mr. Johnson traumatized me.
That's maybe a little too formal, but I mean, yeah, granted, you're making a good point there. Our other co-host, Brando Baird, he's probably going to do a lot of these, and, in surgeon school that he went through. So this is probably just, nothing different to our co-host, the surgeon over there.
Yeah, I just had to dig through the books and find some old conspiracy that I'm very excited to get into mine. It's one I heard and just kind of put in my back pocket over the last couple months, and dude, it's out there. It is definitely out there. I can't wait.
Hell yeah. Well, I'm excited as well. Well, guys, we'll get into that in a little bit. But if you are a normal listener of the show, there's one thing we got to do before we go any further, and that is talk about our sponsors, the lovely companies that help support this show and put it on the air every week. First one up, Liquid IV. Head over to liquidiv.com. Promo code Mafia_Mafia to save yourself 20% off and get free shipping on their website. On their website, you can check out all their great hydration products. They have not only the sugar and the sugar-free version, but they have the immunity support version, the energy version. There's a lot of great options and flavors available on their website whenever you need to get hydrated, whether you're at the paintball field. I mean, hey, maybe you just drank too many drinks the night before and you got to go to work. Sometimes you need water in your body, and Liquid IV is the thing to do when you need it. We appreciate their support over here on the show. Like I mentioned, head over to their website, liquidiv.com, promo code Mafia_Mafia, save 20% off and get free shipping at checkout. Thank you to Liquid IV. Next up, we got NECTR Energy on the show, NECTR.energy. Had it upside down for a second there. The great, awesome little energy pouch. As you guys know, I've already got mine in for the show, but to show them off, it's a little pouch very similar to a Zyn, a tobacco product, something of that sort. But the big difference is there is no nicotine or tobacco in this product. It is just caffeine and a neurotropic. It gets you boosted up a little bit, gets your mind focused in, ready for the task at hand, which is always good when you're about to do, start a 2.5 hour podcast. It's good to get buzzed up a little bit. So we appreciate NECTR Energy, not only for their energy, but also for their support on the show. Head over to their website, NECTR.energy. Use the promo code MafiaProductions. You're going to get a buy two, get one free code. So throw 3 cans in your cart. You're going to get 1 for free. So try out a couple different flavors to see which one you enjoy at home. And last but not least tonight, we talk about them last every week, but they are not last in our hearts. We've got Welts Clothing, weltsclothing.com. Head on over there, grab yourself some limited edition apparel that drops on the first Wednesday of every month, Welts Wednesday, or go check out some of their options that are available all year long. They've got some great pieces over there, hats, straps, sweatshirts, undershirts. They make a lot of great things. They also do a lot of awesome stuff for the paintball community down here in Texas, where their owner and some of their their staff is based out of. So shout out to the boys over at Welts. We appreciate your guys' support. Use the promo code FTS at checkout. Save yourself some money when you're picking up some limited edition apparel at Welts. All right, boys. Well, one last thing we got to do before we can get into the full flow of the show, but I promise this is it, and it's going to be a quick one. We got to bring in our guest. We got him back on the show. Second appearance with us over here at From the Sidelines. We definitely appreciate him not only giving up some of his time tonight, but willing to jump in for some of the insanity that may ensue later. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back Nick Levial to the show. How are you doing tonight, Nick?
Hello, everybody. Thanks for having me back a second time. I love that you guys are growing and kicking.
Yeah, man. Yeah, the grind doesn't stop. That's really what it seems to be. If you keep doing something, it does grow over time.
Absolutely. And Nick, I was a big fan of you on the Over the Top podcast when you had that with J-Rab. I was a duty myself, and I will always be a duty till the day I fucking die.
Oh, I love that.
So, you definitely inspired me for sure to do all this. So I really do appreciate it. It's good to have you back on.
Well, I appreciate it. And it's funny, I was just talking about this the other day about how a lot of people talk about or hold their talents very dear, but the only thing that you should really hold dear is the people that are out there doing it. And so you guys are doing it, and that's the harder thing to do. And so it's easy to be a sideline expert, armchair expert, but you can never take away people that are doing it, because they'll become the thing that you wish that you were. So you guys are doing that. So much respect to all of you.
Yeah,
I appreciate that, bro. I'm gonna put that in my notes right now.
6 minutes into the show, let's get the
jot that
cheesy
down.
quote out. Talent or hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. But it's a really
Facts.
true thing. I mean, fucking paintball and podcasting and whatever you want to apply it to, it's you get better by doing something. If you just sit at home wishing, you're never going to improve.
I completely agree. And
All right, well-
I'm excited for this. I'm excited for this episode, dude. I'm nervous. I'm clammy, bro. I'm excited for this. So
I know, man. You've been talking about it all day. Hatches, yeah, you're excited. You're nervous as well. But before we get into any of that, we got to talk to our guest, man. We've got
you're
one
so
of the
right.
members of Edmonton Impact, one of the longest standing members of Edmonton Impact. I mean, hell, I remember being a high school kid watching him on my YouTube series back at home. And now it's cool to be able to pick his brain and kind of ask him about some of the things that are going on with his squad. And this offseason's been a wild one for Impact. You guys have picked up essentially a new roster. Being one of the, not few, but one of the guys who did remain from that last season's roster, what is your first kind of observation on watching all this go down and seeing the new faces come into the team?
That's a good question. Honestly, in a way, weight off my shoulders, because not only do I know a lot of those guys really well and I've played for them, but it happened so early in the off season that when it did happen, I was like, oh wow, that's big. And then when I was like, am I staying with this team because I would love to play with these guys? The answer was yes. And then I got to kind of go, all right, everyone else have fun with your off season. And I have been, not as emotionally or intellectually invested with all of the moves because they've gotten crazy.
definitely.
I know all I have to do is focus on my team, my guys, my game, and that is a great place to be for me personally. I know that there's been a lot of moves, but I can't name all of them. And yeah, it's nice to not have to worry about what other people are doing,
I love that perspective you bring in because that probably every time we go into the silly season for paintball, for any sports in general, there's always these moments where it's like, okay, I have this spot. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be on this team, but I need to make it to the first event to know that I'm actually going to be on this team. Unfortunately, there have been circumstances of guys, getting offers and then things fall through, sponsorships fall or ownership changes. These things just do happen. So yeah, to be able to kind of have that weight off your shoulders of knowing, okay, I know who my roster is next year. They want me back on the team. Cool. Now let's go, let's get some practices lined up. Let's see if we can get some time in the offseason together and just, focus on our goal next year, which is not being second at, World Cup yet again for another season in a row.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the biggest thing, honestly, with that group that we put together is there isn't going to be a lot of building, in my opinion. Not only have I played against those players for so long, but I've worked with them in different capacities. So I understand, with the BKI stuff, how, a lot of them think, and they understand how I think. And so I think that, and also bringing people up to speed on being a top performing pro and not being on a roster where, you have to spend some of your energy picking people up and getting them to the point where you want them to be. And so having each person being able to just focus on the best of their game and having an innate trust in their ability is, I don't think I've ever been on a team like that. So, and we haven't even played together yet. So that's how I feel about it. It's the ability to just focus on you is going to, I think we're going to get a lot of good things out of all of those players.
Yeah, that's
Wow.
a great point because where former versions of Impact, we've seen, yes, there were the kind of the all-star periods of time, the Impact Series time, when you guys were winning all those events. But unfortunately, just as it went these last couple seasons, a couple of those guys were, picked away and kind of chipped away. And so, that 2024 Impact we saw, that was a very different squad than the one that we saw coming from 2020 or even the years before. And so I think it does go to kind of, another weight off your shoulders of knowing now, okay, these are all experienced professionals. I do not need to worry about what, Marcelo is doing or what Rainey is doing, because I'm confident that they're going to be doing the right thing. And if they make a mistake, they are experienced enough to understand where that mistake was and how to, fix their game plan from that. Which again, the Indians and the Chief type thing, you could just focus so much more energy on your own individual performance, your own individual job, and not have to worry about the rest of the field. I do think that's something this Impact team is, brought back and we haven't seen in the past couple seasons. It'll be very interesting to see how, a very veteran core can do when they're brought together from different teams, even though, as a youth, they all played together, but bringing the boys back together kind of.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, there's going to be a process just like any other team, getting to know how each other likes certain things or how they want to play certain situations. But I think the difference is the very base respect of understanding that other person has a valid point of view, because they've had success. Whereas, you might have someone come into the league and they might be having a lot of success and things are working for them. But from a veteran's point of view or a coach's point of view, they might see it as like, okay, I understand this is working for you, but you haven't seen all of the potential iterations of the game. And being able to see someone that has had that, and let's say they make a mistake in your mind, having at least the subconscious of like, maybe I should ask them why they were thinking that way. Whereas like, I think a lot of new players don't get that grace. And so just having that baseline respect of like, I know this person knows what to do. And instead of immediately telling them that what they did was wrong or to think about it a different way, just saying, well, why did you do that? Maybe I have something that I didn't see there. So like, when the conversation starts there, it's easier to build than the other way.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And to put a name on a situation, like, let's take a player like ABJ. Going from this year playing on the FTS Notorious squad. No disrespect to the rest of that team, but it was very clear that he was a lot of their success. He was able to produce results for them. And don't get me wrong, there was obviously moments from other guys on that team to win points for that squad. But now him stepping over to a team like Revo, they're going to have different expectations for him. His teammates are going to be looking at him in a different light. Instead of he was the all-star, now he's okay, now you're back in the core roster. You got to work with us to get back up to where you could potentially be. So I think that is Impact, completely different situation. It's all guys who already have that respect for each other, that core understanding. So it'll be interesting at Tampa for me, because I think any paintball team needs an event to kind of shake everything out. Every time we've seen a super team gathered, they've always had some of that quick period to try and shake off the rust and get everything, all the communication, all the coaches on the same page as the players. But once we do, we've seen some great previous runs from teams. I would love to see that from Impact this year, as being a person who grew up a fan of the team. But it's one of those things. We'll see as it comes. It's looking good for the time being, and yeah, we're excited to see how Impact does perform coming up this year.
Absolutely, and I think that like from a baseline standard from all of those teams in the past, depending on expectations and pressure, it's like I would way rather light coals than light feathers. And so like if you have a lot of pressure on you as a team, you might come out hot, but that amount of pressure is not sustainable. We've seen that a lot of times where teams have really good first events and they falter all the way through the rest of the year more and more. And so I would always rather ramp up than burn hot and bright. And I think that is also a conversation that we've had as well from seeing those other teams. So as much as one event shakeout can help a team, it can also hurt a team. So I think that like, to me, winning the first event would be a potential red flag.
Interesting.
Okay.
I mean, kind of off that same thing, you hear teams talk a lot about, when we're in a practice, we don't necessarily want to win practice. And because it kind of creates that same mindset that I think you're saying a first event win might create, where it almost seems like, oh guys, this is easy. We got this. We can kind of rest and relax a little bit. And then there's 4 events where all other 19 teams are like, we want to beat them. Let's go out and practice every weekend. Yep. So I think that is a kind of a great point to put out there. Don't rest on your laurels. When you win, it only puts a bigger target on your back.
Yeah, absolutely.
And one thing that's funny you say that, Ryan, with being an outsider watching Impact, like being the kid that would run home to see the Impact series, now being in the pits, seeing the difference of Impact coming up with like when Nick first got on, and obviously that rebuild of Impact now to where the super team that was dismantling everybody in those, what was it, like 2015, 2016 years, right? It's very interesting to see the way Impact is painted now compared to back then. So different, right? Impact is now like the super dog where people like hope you guys lose. People want you guys to lose, which is insane, That's the funny thing with sports. People only want you to win until you win, then they want you to lose. It's a very interesting thing, but we see it in this sport a lot. I mean, dude, before 2020, everyone and their dog wanted Dynasty to win an event again to see the old guys raise a cup. And then they won 10, and everyone's like, okay, calm down. Like, that's too many. Let's get some other parity in this league. Like, PB Fit beats him once, and everybody's like, Dragon Slayer! Everybody's just going crazy.
It creates hype. So it will be cool to see, if Impact is able to regain that momentum again as kind of once they formerly were. And it's also interesting, we've seen a lot of new people come back into paintball since 2020. Maybe they were around in the early days of the early 2000s, but they weren't around watching, that Nick, the 2015 kind of generation of Impact that you guys are thinking of, that I'm thinking of. They weren't around to watch that as much. So when they came back in, they're like, oh, I've heard this team is good, but like I don't have a personal memory or connection to them like I do an Infamous or a Dynasty or an Ironman, one of these very legacy type team names that we have. So yeah, in general, I'm very happy to see it. One of the funny names, this is Edmonton Aftermath. That's the funny meme name I've heard thrown around a couple times. But it is cool to see a lot of guys who obviously were very good as kids. They played together, they were friends, and then they went out, had to go, paintball took them on different paths, and now they're coming back together with you and JC and Brandon and a couple of the other guys are coming back. So I'm excited to watch this new version of Impact, and yeah, we'll see what comes from it. Brando, I wanted to get you in on a little bit. Did you have anything for Nick, as we're kind of still on the paintball side of stuff?
Yeah, you said it's going to take some time to gel, right? But how you've been involved with the some of the new guys, the new pickups for you, not within Impact, but within the paintball scene. They've all they're all playing together now, right, down in SoCal. And I even saw Dave made the trip down there a couple weekends ago, and I'm guessing he was there all weekend. I don't know, maybe like a little practice with all the new guys. So I'm assuming that's gonna ramp up, getting them into the system a little faster than just waiting for an official team practice, right? So it just goes along with that. It's good to see. It's the hype is like seeing that. It's like, oh damn, this is going to be a good team, and I'm excited to see it. Do you know when you guys your official practice is as a team?
Yeah, our first practice is the 9th. We have 3 practices scheduled up until the next event. So I know some of the guys are going to play next weekend at Dave's Field, but I think it's only going to be like 4 of them. But then on February 8th and 9th is our first practice, and then the 22nd, 23rd, 1st, 2nd. So we're going to have we're going to have some pretty interesting practices. I'm pretty sure our first one is with, I think we're trying out a new format with Dynasty.
I was talking to Dave this past weekend. I did hear about this.
And I'm not even sure what the format is. You guys might know better than me. But we're going to try it out.
I'm definitely very excited to watch it. I'm very curious on how it's going to be.
Can you guys talk about it?
I was told not to.
Because I have no information about this, but I also don't want you guys to put out stuff you're not supposed to. So.
I was told not to.
Okay, yep.
So, all right, fair enough. Well, good thing they didn't tell me, because I might have just spilled it. But
it was Nick who said it first, Dave.
Yeah, well, I mean, in transparency, I am not pro. I've heard a lot of different formats attempted to be played. I really like the format that we play now, with maybe some tweaks to the rules.
Okay.
And I understand the incentivization of moves and plays and exciting things. I have not yet heard a format that makes sense to me in terms of not completely revamping the whole system, because I don't think that's the way to go. That being said, if I come back from this practice and I really like the format, I'll tell you. I'll be like,
You're open to
I
it.
really like it.
Yeah.
But I would say I'm going in biased, saying I don't want to reinvent the wheel. But if it's the right wheel, I'm in.
Absolutely valid. You know, sometimes, like, obviously that one a couple years ago, the 7-3, that one was just kind of like, there were obviously a lot of outcomes that the pros realized. They're like, okay, we can just sit here and win, you know? So I'm very curious on how they're going to change it over from that kind of style to what they're going to try the next weekend. I'm genuinely curious. Are they going to make
Same,
it?
apparently. Same.
Are they going to make it? You know, are they going to reward aggression? Are they going to make it to where? Is it like a half? Is it a quarter system? You know, I don't know.
Brandon, the whole time he's talking, I'm so scared right now that he's about to say something that he's not
To
supposed to
drop
put out.
something?
I am terrified
Well,
because
no,
I don't know the info, so I don't know what's good or not. I'm just like, oh, Hatch,
Hey,
please
bro.
don't get us in trouble.
I don't know either.
Hypothetically,
Okay.
we're going back to counting bodies. I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah, dude, I have
Going
no
back to
idea.
Cali. But yeah, one of the things that you brought up there, Nick, that I wanted to bring up as well, is kind of on Brand's point as well, is you know, that group of SoCal players, they're kind of been known for, even in the past off seasons, you know, being on separate teams, they'll kind of still come together and, you know, run some drills together, or, you know, kind of keep their swords sharp together. So it is cool to see them all come, you know, under one banner now, instead of having to be like, all right, guys, see you know, see you on the field, hopefully. So I think from that perspective, it's really cool. One of the things that's different, though, is there is that core there now. Being one of those guys who lives in a different part of the country, do you think, you know, is that going to be easy for you to come in and kind of, you know, gel into that already made, you know, chemistry that's been, you know, being worked on for the last 20 years with some of those guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think that'll definitely be a hurdle, like, regardless, like, of, you know, people become cliquey, and, you know, there'll be inside jokes and there'll be time spent together that I won't be a part of. But there's a professionalism that, in the end, I think, especially with that group, performance means everything. And so, you know, if you're coming in and you're playing at a high level, that's who all of us are going to want on the field. Like, I think that, you know, to me, stats and kills don't mean as much as a trophy. So, like, I will take the win over most things, and I think that I am in a group of people that want the same thing. And so there's going to be a politics in every group, but I don't think that it will affect me in a way that I'm worried about not being there for those practices.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah, and I think that's something that even the lower divisional people, you know, that could be something they look into, because you know, there are semi-pro teams that are starting to bring in guys from different parts of the country, and you know, they have chemistry issues just because there isn't time spent there isn't trust built, as you know, there are with the teams like PB Fits or the Aftermaths, you know, where it's a lot of guys who are in one central area. So you know, even I think going down to those players, like Nick just made a great point there of, like, you got to have that professionalism of understanding at the end of the day we're here for one goal, and that goal should be to win. You know, yeah, depending on where we are in the division, we want to have fun, we want to enjoy, you know, the time and money that we're spending, but at the end of the day, the winning the event is always, you know, the goal. So you know, there can be a level of respect held for the rest of your teammates, even if you don't necessarily, you know, maybe you don't view him as your best friend, but fuck, if he's a good gunfighter, he's gonna help you win the event. Sometimes you just got to work with those guys. You know, it's life a little bit.
Well, I would say that is a special circumstance, and that is the goal mentality, but I don't think that's necessarily realistic in just about any way or any team. And so I was going to bring this up earlier in terms of, like, I'm obsessed with gunfights, team gunfighting, and the way that it all dances together. That being said, gunfights and team gunfighting is super, super situational. In the sense that if you were a layman watching the best player, number one player in the world versus an amateur player, and that amateur player gets behind that person, or the pro team's playing with a bunch of amateurs and someone made a mistake, and that person shoots the best player in the world, is that player better or have a one-up on that best player? In that situation, probably not. You know what I mean? It's a very situational moment. And so in terms of giving advice to people in different situations on different teams, I would definitely not give the same advice of assuming and hoping that your team around you, that maybe you're traveling to, is not gaining clickiness from those moments. And so I just want to throw that out there, that like if you are a player on the outside or a new player on a team, you have to try twice as hard. You've got to show up to those things. Like if I was earlier in my career, let's say this is my first chance on a pro team, and that team is all practicing together, I would need to be there. If I wanted any chance to not get excluded or not get the benefit of the doubt in certain situations, because like in the end, people are in a way working for their own best interests until they become mature enough to realize that their best interest is the trophy, like you said. Not everyone's there, not every team's there. And so in a way, if you are one of those traveling players, I would recommend you finding any way to call those people, show up, because you definitely don't want to be on the outside of those things. I'm personally in a situation as an individual and with a situation as a team where I believe that all of those people have that same goal and that I'm going to do the work to show up in those moments, but I also have a track record of doing that. And so I just want to throw out for the listeners, if you are in that situation, you got to try twice as hard.
Absolutely.
Bringing all of that down, it comes to one simple equation. It's respect. And respect is a thing that there is no shortcuts. You can't gain it in a week. And so especially, you know, a guy like you, Nick, you have a lot of respect in the league. You know, people understand your professionalism, and when they bring you onto a roster, you know what your perspective is. And all those guys, your teammates, they've played against you for a number of years. They probably are like, yeah, Nick's, you know, he's solid. But, you know, that's a great point for if you are coming into a roster completely fresh, people don't know you, you had to change states for something, you know, it's something you got to earn. And it's not going to come quick. It's not going to come easy. But once you earn it, it means a lot. And it's one of those things that in paintball, it's such a small knit community. You know, your word and kind of who you are as a player sometimes will matter more than your raw gunfighting ability, like you just talked about.
Absolutely. Yeah,
you know,
summed it perfectly.
One story I want to say that I've seen with Nick relatively recently. We were doing a 3-way scrimmage between us, NYX, and Impact, right? And I remember it was a 2-on-1. Nick is in the Snake 1. And obviously, anybody who's seen Nick, tall man, very tall man. And
he's not a Brandon.
Shit started going down. I, no joke, see this guy playing fucking, doing his imitation of a 2x4, like laying on his back like this, like a Navy SEAL style. And there's two dudes from NYX, like, they know it's a 2-on-1, so they're like hunting for him. And sure as shit, Nick is just doing crunches, fucking snapping him out, just doing crunches. And I'm like, oh my God, he's really hitting that shit. And he won a 2-on-1 doing crunches. I'm not even messing with you. I've seen it. So I thought when that.
So my question, Hatch, you brought this up. Why? You just wanted to tell us a great story about Nick?
Absolutely, because that was one where he's like, you know, when you're around that team and you really got to prove it to everybody else. That was one of those where I knew, I was like, damn, Nick's that fucking guy right now.
Okay, I guess, yeah, good point. Like, you know, it's a practice point. Really, there's nothing gained there, but
like,
there is a little respect gained from your teammates when they see you just working fucking your abs out trying to get a stab.
If I saw my teammate do that, bro, I'm hyping him the fuck up. You know, I'm feeling 10 times more confident when I see something like that happen.
And that's why you're a great teammate, Hatch. You know, you really bring the energy in the pits.
I try, dude. I have to, you know. And one thing is, Nick, I feel bad for you guys because I'm in your pits, but I'm not allowed to be hyped. That's one thing I feel bad for you guys.
Oh, I might turn that up from you, actually.
Dude, I'm telling you, bro. I get in trouble for doing it. But I genuinely do try to be a hype guy.
I'm coming right to you sometimes. But let's go, Hatch.
Okay, let's fucking go. I'm down. Well,
to Hatch's point, in terms of like building a resume of respect, like in terms of like practice, like I'm someone who innately, like, I'm not gonna give up, like even when I'm down. And so like, if imagine someone in your practice, like they're in a 3-on-1 or something and they walk off the field, they're like, nah, that's not for me. Like paintball is such a in the trenches moment. And so like, you want a guy in the trenches that is gonna fight all the way to the end. And so like, to Hatch's point, like it's moments like that with your group that make your teammates go like, I want that guy in the trenches with me. And you can't believe that in someone until you see them in the trenches. And like, for you guys that are coming up and like trying to earn your spot, every time that you give up, it gets noted, subconsciously or consciously. And every time that you try your hardest, that gets noted. And so like, if you're someone that's going to show up and try your hardest every time, whether people know it or not, they're going to want you on their team. And that just is what it is.
I'm not going to name any names because it's not a great example, but there is a player from previous iterations of DMG everyone, he would be in the back bunker. And you just knew he would be there. And
you already know
who I'm talking about. And it's one of those things that,
not in the trenches with me. I do not want that man in my foxhole.
But more so what I mean is, yes, did he have to push down the field on all those points? No, probably not. But it was noticed that, he's just always back there, not really helping his team. And over time, that action started to stick in a lot of people's mind, To
where
one person noticed it, then it spreads to another. And then that just became known around the field of like, if you're in a gunfight, he's not with you. Like, he's going to be in the back. So just know that. And it does spread, and that's not a good reputation to have, but those spread just as well as, as good ones.
One that for me personally, I hate that spread is that I'm an overshooter. I'm a malicious overshooter. That was one where I'm like, man, I'm not even that bad at overshooting. That's a record that does not need to be on my back. I overshot a guy once.
Yeah, I think you're the only person who defends yourself on that one, Hatch.
It's not even that bad, bro. Let me tell you. Except for that one situation with A-Rod a couple years ago. That one... I guess that one was pretty bad.
A lot of people have gotten into it with A-Rod. I don't think that's a specifically you moment. But yeah, before we keep moving it on, keep it on the paintball thing, one last thing we got to bring up today, guys. One of the quickest reverse decisions I've ever seen by the NXL. But it was announced earlier today. We are recording on the day this happens, so that'll date us. Pretty good for you guys. But it was announced, and I actually can't even pull up the original post because it already was dropped.
But, I got deleted. You could look at our meme.
True. You got it on our meme. It was announced that the names of the pro rankings, or all the rankings for paintball, were going to be changed from pro to pro champions, semi-pro to pro elite, division 2 to premier, division 3 to amateur A, division 4 to amateur B, and division 5 to intro. That was announced round... 4 o'clock Central Time today, kind of right in the middle of the day. About 2 hours later, due to the overwhelming amount of comments and responses left by the paintball community on Instagram, the NXL decided to reverse this decision, and the divisions will remain the same name for next year as Pro, Division 1, or Semi-Pro, Division 2, D3, D4, D5, all that. Wow. I'm kind of speechless. When was the last time the NXL made an announcement on something and then saw this bad of feedback and actually took it back? Like, this whole thing is surprising.
Okay, I could realistically say the last time I saw it where they reverted it like that, it lasted one event, true semi. Obviously, that was the PSP. The PSP did fold. The PSP did fold, so maybe that has to do with a little bit of it.
A little different situation, I think, but it was bad.
It was reverted, and they did go back to 10-2. So,
Nick, did you play that event in Pro?
I did, yeah.
You did?
I did.
How bad was True Semi, man?
I hated it. It made no sense.
I wasn't at events yet. That was my still, being on the couch watching. But I just remember every single video of every single pro who played that event. They were like, I don't like this. Why did we do this? This was stupid a waste of time and resources.
Yeah. I mean, I get the intention behind it. They want to make pulling the trigger a skill. But I've made this point clear to a lot of those people. I think that the way that the world is moving in terms of technology, the cheating is just too rampant. It is so easy to cheat with technology now. I mean, I'm trying to play video game tournaments, and let me tell you, a micro switch, if you're going to allow someone to have an advantage, if they can just pull it that much faster, people are going to find ways to do it. I think that a strong cap makes the most sense in this day and age. Yes, I wish that pulling the trigger was still a skill, but I mean, you saw the way that went towards the end of it. I mean, people with cheater boards everywhere and like crazy things like
most Bob Long guns from like 06 to 05.
It's not enforceable. And I don't know why you would put another stress on the refs or another stress on the players where
Absolutely.
someone can get a whole tournament taken away from them from either an individual or a bad call. I'm a big fan of standardization when it comes to all sorts of things paintball involved, and that's just one thing that really didn't make sense to me, because like I knew some players on my team that their guns shot amazing, or they could shoot them amazing, and then the other half couldn't. That other half is gonna find a way. Like
It was kind of like if your muscle memory was good for it, you were fine. But if you've been shooting your trigger, differently from the way it wants you to shoot now, your whole life, you were just kind of screwed. And you were like, what the fuck? Like, this thing I've been a pro at for the last, 10 years or so, however long, I now feel like I suck at. It was very strange. I guess, could you mention just what True Semi was for people who don't remember? Because this already was 12 years ago when that came out.
Yeah, so basically...
Dude, almost 10. That was 2015. Holy fuck.
That was 2015? Oh, damn.
Holy fuck.
I don't remember the exact cap numbers, but basically it was semi-auto, so that as many times as you pulled the trigger, it would shoot. But if you went over a certain balls per second, it would punish you. So I think it was 12? 10?
I think honestly, no joke.
I think it was
if I am correct,
GSP.
I remember Scott Kemp was my coach when he played on X Factor, and he was saying it was 13-3.
Okay, so
that was like
13-3.
That's what he told me.
And like I remember in the semi days, I mean, I could shoot 15, 16 easily. And so if you were ever going above that 13-3, it would shoot you right down to like 3 balls a second. And
it's like you turned your eyes off, essentially. Just like instantly, you just get lower. Yeah.
And so you would be shooting on that rhythm that your gun wanted you to shoot. And then if like you saw someone or you got excited and you had fast fingers, you would go over that, and then your gun would go bup, 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 and your chance to miss them would be much higher. So it was really a rhythm game, and so you had to play within that rhythm, which is a different skill, in my opinion, than semi-auto. That you could have got used to that for sure, but it wasn't the intent. And so I don't think anyone who had a better skill of the thing that they were trying to promote getting punished in a game for it didn't make sense. It didn't work out well.
Yeah, it was like the logic didn't fully make it there. Like I see what you're kind of saying, the like promoting this trigger skill as something people have, but you kind of put a cap on it and it makes it weird.
And I was just telling them, just if you want it to be capped at 13-3, make it semi-auto cap 13-3 without the punishment.
Yeah.
So you could get to your 13-3. Yeah, but
yeah. Well, and the other thing with True Semi, didn't Die like make all the boards? So like all you guys had to like deliver your guns to be like reboarded or something right before the tournament. Like I remember that was the other annoyance about it too, was like it wasn't just
Pro Guns had their own separate boards, I'm pretty sure.
Put in their own USB and cool, we got an update. It was like some extra thing.
Yeah, and some of those were easier to shoot than others.
I heard a rumor that Russian Legion for an entire day they shot a skid of paint just trying to get the rhythm, just shooting a skid, just trying to get the rhythm down.
That's something the Russians would do.
Exactly, right? So it doesn't even sound crazy, right? But I'm just like, damn, that is some extra extent shit to get to that next level where you're not even you're focusing so hard on the rhythm, you're almost taking yourself out of the game at that point, because you're just like, all right, got to keep this rhythm if I want to, keep this gap, held. But
my theory is that whoever made those boards introduced it to try and ruin the competition. It was either Die or it was planned or something. They were trying to ruin the markers around them. Yeah, that's a great theory. But with that, yes, thank you, Nick. We are going to start to segue into our conspiracy theories for tonight. We'll let Nick chill about, be a little bit of an audience member. We've been grilling him kind of hard, but we do appreciate some of his input on this stuff. I always love when I get to pick Nick's brain. But we do have our presentations ready. We've got an order. We picked it before the show. Brando, you're going to go first. I'm going to go second, and then Hatch is going to finish it out in third. And yeah, so go ahead, get stretched, buddy. I know you don't talk much. This is going to be a lot for you, Brandon. So yeah, whenever you're ready.
Yeah, warm it up, throat goat.
Yeah, my vocal cords are going to be sore after this. All right. So as I said earlier, this conspiracy coworker just mentioned randomly to me, and I was like, really? Okay, that goes in the back pocket. I'll look at it later. Never looked at it. When it came time for this, this is perfect. It was in my phone, deep in the notes in my phone. Had to go searching for it. So, It's a very niche conspiracy theory. It's within the music world, and claiming that Rivers Rivers Cuomo from Weezer, the lead singer,
Okay.
is actually Kurt Cobain in disguise, and Kurt Cobain never actually committed suicide. All right.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
I like this
board.
one.
All right. So here we go. Kurt Cobain, he died the same year in 1994 that Weezer's album kind of shot them into fame. No pun intended. Kurt Cobain, faked his death to escape, maybe some pressures of fame and to
escape Courtney Love.
Pressures. Mm-hmm. To reinvent himself as Rivers. I'm going to say Rivers because it's hard for me to pronounce his last name, Cuomo. Yeah, it's weird. So, here's a couple things. They had kind of similar music themes with Nirvana and Weezer. Nirvana, Weezer, they explored themes of alienation, angst, and like self-doubt through wildly different styles, but they still went through it, right? Some speculate that Rivers' songwriting is Cobain's way of channeling his creativity in a more lighthearted and commercially viable form. Because Nirvana,
okay.
Nirvana's kind of a little more niche than
Grunge.
than Weezer. Yeah, we'll get to that. Yeah. As well as their physical appearance, especially in their younger years, they have like an angular face that look fairly similar, right? Not taking into account the disguise or whatnot that Cobain went into as Rivers.
Like their like jawbones kind of look the same.
The sharp nose, the angles,
Oh, you're going off like that face scale.
Exactly.
It's exactly the same.
Phrenology, right? Isn't that
Is that what it's called?
Yeah, is that? Yeah. I mean, I got to measure their heads, but yes.
Hell yeah.
And as well as their kind of awkward demeanors.
Left. Sorry. My bad.
Thanks, Hatch.
They both have awkward demeanors as well, through music videos and interviews and whatnot. So, people look at that. And looking at their different styles of like the actual people, right? The personas, the persona swap, if you will. Some claim Rivers' signature thick glasses and preppy style are an elaborate disguise to throw some people off, comparing it to Kurt.
Because that is a real thing with glasses. If you have like thick glasses, it definitely makes your face kind of warp and seem like it looks different.
Absolutely.
For sure. So, people argue that Cobain's scruffy grunge aesthetic was abandoned for something totally opposite to make the transition more believable. It wildly different.
Okay.
I mean, I see that because Kurt always had like his long kind of the blonde hair and kind of that,
Big,
always
baggy,
super baggy.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So
Ratted
if you go a completely different style, it would be even more like a contrast. Yeah.
Exactly.
For sure. Because that style in the 90s is frowned upon for sure. That grunge, long hair, you look like a hooligan.
What?
Hell
That
yeah.
was the cool thing. It's what all the
different.
youths were doing.
But I'm talking for all the olders. They're all looking at him like, oh, these goddamn hooligans.
The boomers.
Exactly.
Yeah, I got you.
Yep.
All right. So something that people bring up is, what about when Rivers, went to Harvard? Well, it's called the Harvard break. Rivers, he famously took a hiatus to attend Harvard, which some suggest it was Cobain's attempt to retreat into obscurity and some solidarity in order to find his new identity, to solidify his new identity.
Are you kind of saying is like a moment for people to almost forget about him, to kind of be like, hey, I'm Weezer now, I'm famous, and then kind of like let that fade a little bit?
Yep, let it fade, let it simmer, let it sit and simmer.
Okay.
And then come back, as Rivers and whatnot with Weezer. Now we'll move on to the music video, Buddy Holly. All right. Mm-hmm. Some argue that Buddy Holly contains cryptic clues about escaping an old life, because the music video is set in a retro diner, symbolizing stepping into a nostalgic but radically different persona. Right. All right.
This shit was directed by Spike Jonze? Okay.
Yeah, oh, we'll get there. Yeah, hold on.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Oh, shit. Spoiler.
Yeah. So, again, as I said, the music or the video is set in a fictional 50s diner. And from Happy Days, the old sitcom Happy Days. Excuse me. Sorry, where was I? Okay. Shit.
Fire your prompter guy.
Yeah, right. Oh, fuck. Fictional 50s diner from Happy Days, which some claim symbolize Kurt's, going back to a simpler time, and rejecting the grunge era's angst and intensity,
and wanting to go back to like a classic Americana type,
a
more pure, kind of, I don't know,
more whole. No,
I'm trying to find the right adjective, but like just a more like very, I don't know what you think of when you see like Leave It to Beaver or something, Puritan. That's the word I think. Yeah,
a good boy. Yeah,
Puritan.
And the retro aesthetic could be interpreted as Cobain's desire to escape his chaotic rock star persona and reinvent himself in a more wholesome image. There you go. Right?
Okay.
Now, Buddy Holly references another rock legend who met an untimely death. Conspiracy theorists suggest the title itself is a nod to Cobain's fake death. Right?
What?
And a comparison between himself and Holly as icons gone too soon, though, one supposedly lived on. He did, supposedly. Because he did. But others believe the lyrics, or the lyric, I'll say, you're just like Buddy Holly, could be Cobain.
Almost like a dog whistle saying like, you're just like Buddy Holly, because he's saying that. Okay.
He is Buddy Holly, right? Of course, he's Rivers saying this, but
that's what the theory is that this is Kurt kind of calling out through the song.
Yeah.
Okay.
That he is Buddy Holly.
Trap soul. Wow.
Right?
It's very deep. It really is.
I like this.
Right. And also the Mary Tyler Moore lyric might symbolize Cobain shedding his grunge image to embrace a more polished mainstream persona like Rivers. More digestible. The goofy upbeat vibe of the video as well contrast with Nirvana's raw moody aesthetic. Again, we're going back to just completely wild, different, opposite ends of the spectrum.
Because I'm gonna pull up real quick. Like, if you look at "Smells Like Teen Spirit," the video right next to this Buddy Holliday one, it's like it is night and fucking day. Like everything about it, the color correction, the style, like the set piece of where they're at, the way. Yeah,
absolutely. Okay. You asked someone that has no idea.
For the podcast?
No, because these are all very copyrighted materials.
God, just want to make sure.
Yeah, if you
so
have someone,
look this up if you want to at home.
If you have someone that has no idea about any of this, like, are these the same people? They're probably going to say no. Absolutely no. So, some kind of speculate that it's Cobain's tongue-in-cheek way of poking fun at himself or his own dark past. and signaling that he's living a new carefree life under the radar. So, yeah.
Away from Courtney Love.
Away from pressures. Yes.
Is she still alive?
I think she is. Yeah.
I think so. Yeah. So, and then
We're not going to be for long talking about her.
Once you said dog whistle, no joke, my ear started ringing.
So
I shit you not, bro.
Here we go.
Let him go.
The video's director, Spike Jonze, as
Yup.
you saw, was known for his edgy, surreal style. Some may say that some claim that Jones was in on the secret, helping Cobain create a playful, subversive narrative to hide his true identity. Right. So
Okay. Because I will
into
say, like, this is the most normal Spike Jonze piece there ever was made.
Yeah.
Like this is essentially just an episode of Happy Days with Weezer singing. Like I haven't seen this before, but so it's really it's cool you bring up that point because really, you know, especially at this time, he was pushing the boundaries of like what was being done in art and shit. So yeah. Wow,
he's
there's
in
more
art,
evidence
yeah.
for this than I was willing to believe.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Here we go. You know, some overanalyze Rivers' mannerisms in the video, as I said. Both him and Kurt having awkward demeanors and like fleeting expressions.
Very introverted, kind of.
Yeah.
Kurt was very much like he didn't really want to talk to people.
No, he did not. He wanted to show his artistic style, but other than that he didn't want the fame. He didn't want it.
Did you see the time that he bullied Nardwar? Have you ever seen that video?
No.
You guys
That video
know the guard
actually pisses me
Nardwar?
off. I
Yeah,
love
it makes me
Nardwar.
so. Nardwar's the GOAT. If you guys don't know, he's one of the best music interviewers ever. But he had an interview with Courtney Love and Kurt Cobain when they were, you know, together, and yeah, they treat him like shit, and it really makes me feel bad for Nardwar because he's the GOAT.
He's a nice guy.
But yeah,
He wasn't
he's
the goat
the
yet, though.
No,
You're right.
no. He was working
at that
his way
time.
up,
He was
for
he was a
sure.
little weirdo back at that time, but
Dude,
he would
he's still a
evolve into
weirdo
the
today,
greatest.
but that's why he's the GOAT. Because
Exactly.
he's himself.
He never changed.
There
He
will
never
never be
changed.
another Nardwar.
Anybody who
always
stays
weird.
true to that, bro, I will respect you no matter what.
There's
So
a
Nardwar.
conspiracy there with Nardwar.
There has to be.
Oh, okay.
Nardwar
That's
is the NSA.
That's for the next episode. Ooh.
There you go. But Brandon, so
Now, so you may ask, why would Cobain want to reinvent himself? Here we go.
this was where I was stuck because Kurt Cobain hated corporatism. He hated being, you know, a corporate sellout or trying to do things to make money for a record label.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, why? He's hating them his whole career. Why? Fucking, let's be them. You know. So, you know.
They hate us because they hate us.
Can't beat him, join him.
He had rejections of fame and labels. You know, maybe one reason. You know, Cobain he was uncomfortable being labeled as the voice of a generation or the face of the grunge movement. He felt misunderstood by mainstream audiences who often misinterpreted his music's depth and intentions.
Yeah, there's the time when he goes on MTV and tells the whole audience to kill their friends. That's an amazing clip. Go watch that one.
It's not what he
Changes
meant.
the lyrics.
That's not what he meant.
No, but he changes the lyrics of is it Smell Like Teen Spirit? It's one of their songs I can't think of right now. And yeah, the MTV producers at the time didn't know he was going to do it, and it was it's a whole cool like lost media type thing from the 90s.
Yeah, fuck the man.
Yeah, so why did he become a corporate sellout?
Shut up, all right? Reinventing himself could have been a way to escape these labels and to redefine his public identity. All right. Jesus. You know, and
I get it. Almost as like a FU, like I'll be
Yeah.
better at what you're doing.
Exactly. Yeah. So his desire to grow artistically as well. You know, as a true artist, Cobain probably likely wanted to evolve creatively rather than to be confined to the grunge sound that Nirvana became famous for. He often expressed admiration for diverse artists like David Bowie, the Beatles, who continue to reinvent themselves as throughout their careers. You know, his desire to explore different musical styles and experiment with his artistry may have driven him to this. So another thing is a conflict with commercial success, right? He struggled with the commercialization of Nirvana's music. He valued authenticity, and felt that Nirvana's immense popularity sometimes clashed with his underground roots and punk ethos.
I can see that.
Right? Reinvention could have been a way to reclaim his artistic autonomy.
Okay.
That's
Yeah,
a
kind
big
of
word
going
right
back to
there.
the point I meant where he's kind of like, you guys are trying to make me this corporate thing. If I do it myself, I did it, not you.
Yeah.
It's almost like you can't fire me, I quit.
Oh, okay.
It's almost kind of, yeah.
You can't fire me, I quit.
I like that, yeah.
Don't ever do that, kids, because if they fire you, they have to give you severance. If you quit, they don't have
straight.
to. So, yeah,
Damn
just
straight.
keep your
And
mouth shut.
You quit, no unemployment. Another thing, persona struggles and identity, right? He often felt disconnected from himself, dealing with mental health issues, drug addiction, maybe some unresolved childhood trauma.
Heroin.
Yeah.
No.
Reinventing himself could have been a way to break free from these struggles and find a sense of renewal and possibly healing. So something that may help him along the way.
Okay.
Okay.
Also, probably a need to escape the pressures of touring, media scrutiny, the
Courtney Love.
demands, pressures. The demands of music industry weighed heavily on him for sure. Reinvention might have represented a way to distance himself from the overwhelming spotlight and start fresh on his own terms again. And then my last point.
Your Hail Mary of sorts.
My last fact, I'll say.
FTS fact.
Confirmed.
And it's foreshadowing in his music. So Cobain's songwriting often hinted at themes of transformation and escape. Right. For example, Nirvana's shift from the raw sound of their album Bleach to their more polished yet still visceral album Nevermind, and then the raw and experimental album in Utero, which I just find funny. Suggests
Better than Dookie, so.
Yeah, the transition between all three of those suggests an ongoing exploration of identity and sound. So,
Okay.
right.
So,
I have one more point to bolster your argument.
okay.
So apparently, also Weezer, specifically Rivers Cuomo owns their own music.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh.
So.
Wait. Okay, wait, that is actually huge because the amount of new artists who come in and don't realize how important, that's how you make money is owning your masters. Yeah. That's a person who knows what they're doing. That's not a new band who's just yeah, we got a record deal, let's go. Oh.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, okay.
Kurt knows
That's a little assist up there, Nick. You get a plus on this one.
That was a help for sure.
Yeah, so, again, the Cobain and Weezer conspiracy, it is niche, but I believe Kurt is still alive. He's living as Rivers Cuomo, and you know what? Also, Nirvana and Weezer, when Weezer was established in 92, so they were together when Kurt was alive for 2 years, and they toured and stuff, and never once was there ever a picture with Rivers and Kurt either together in the same room. Nothing. They've never met. No one's seen them in the same room.
It's a Batman and Bruce Wayne type situation.
Coincidence?
I see what
think
you're
not.
saying.
So
Him and I also have the same birthday, by the way, so that's another plus.
Damn, Nick, you're in on this too?
do they really?
The hell?
No, this is why we brought Nick in, guys. This is right up his alley. He loves conspiracy theories, guys. Yeah, he's side
the
Googling
dots.
over there trying to find more info.
All right, so and that's my conspiracy theory.
All right.
That's it.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Presentation, Brandon.
Yeah, I
was
like
great.
it. I'm very much impressed just how much you talked about music. That is the most I've ever heard you talk about different genres of grunge rock. And I was like, well, who is this Brandon? All right, that's cool.
Yeah, it's honestly like looking for a conspiracy theory and think about this. I didn't think it was going to go that deep, and then started reading. It was like, holy shit,
That's a pretty good one.
it's kind of weird.
When you first started and you said it was like someone replacing someone, I thought you were going to go the Avril Lavigne route because everyone knows that one. I was going to be like, no, he did a popular one. But yeah, I've never heard of the Kurt story before. So yeah, I'm glad you did one that's not super popular, it seems.
Yeah, very, very obscure, so yeah, I'm setting the bar high.
Yeah, dude, good job. You had a great presentation. You had
Better
great
than mine,
evidence.
for sure.
Round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Round of applause for Brando Baird. That, of course, is our first one of the night, which means I am up next. And for this, I've got to roll the sleeves up and share a screen because, ladies and gentlemen, for my presentation tonight, I've put together a PowerPoint. So we're going to bring this up.
Already
Pull
winning.
that on up, and we're going to start that slideshow.
All right, Nick.
Hey, let me just say, I don't have a slideshow, so just be aware.
You don't. Wait. You can't see it, or you don't have
No,
it.
I can see it. I do not have a slideshow of my own.
All right, you have it at least. That's good to know. Well, ladies and gentlemen, brought up the slideshow. As you see, the title of my presentation tonight is "We Are in the Wrong Timeline, Rick," and that is a reference to something which obviously we will get into as we go. But ladies and gentlemen, Brandon, Stephen Hatch, Nick, appreciate you guys for joining me tonight. Are any of you guys familiar with multi-universes, with parallel dimensions, with things of that sort? Is that a concept that you've heard about before?
Absolutely.
Been there, done that.
Okay, yeah, I mean, you
Nick's in
look
there
like
now.
you're in Dormammu's universe right now,
that's what
so
I'm saying.
love
Yeah,
that.
I would like to say I contribute to the multiverse myself.
I love that.
So
That is true. Well, for anyone in our audience who doesn't know what a multiverse is, we've got to get you guys caught up to speed. So, a multiverse is a hypothetical collection of all universes, which may include an infinite number of parallel universes. That's a fancy definition. What the fuck does that mean, Ryan? Essentially, it means that it is a theory that out there are a infinite amount of universes where everything that happened in ours happens in theirs, but slightly differently. Let's say, someone gets up to go to work and they're 5 seconds later than what they were in another universe. Well, in that universe, they hit a red light instead of hitting a green light. And in the red light universe, they end up getting to work, but they get fired because they're late. Or, in the green light universe, they make it just barely on time and they keep their job.
Wait,
very similar situations.
In this universe, I could be 6 foot?
You could. There's probably, yes, there is a infinite parallel timeline out there where Brandon is 6'4" and I'm 5'1".
I
So
couldn't
that
even
does
imagine Brando being that tall.
But the term was first coined by American philosopher William James in 1895. So it's been around for a lot longer than it's been in kind of our pop culture. It's been talked about a lot recently. Recently, we've seen it used as a narrative device in many different fictional worlds. Marvel, DC, Star Trek. And there is a difference with the last one on there. Marvel, DC, Star Trek, they all use it as a way to describe how, the comic books are different from the movies, which are different from the video games, which are different from, the TV series. They kind of use it as a way to describe that, okay, these are all different universes within Marvel or within DC. Rick and Morty, on the other hand, takes it a very different direction. They bring that plot device into the story and kind of explore the idea of traveling to different parallel universes. People who have not watched Rick and Morty, in the show, we follow the story of Rick and Morty from C-137, which is a universe that's been designated that. And all throughout their journey and their adventures through the multiverse, we see them run into separate versions of themselves from other versions of, Earth and different, timelines where things are different. And really, the theory is that there's an infinite amount of these. So if you can think it happened in another timeline somewhere out there along the way.
Central 34.
very big overarching concept. Really, it's just a fancy way to kind of explain why you didn't win the lottery that one time. But let's
Holy shit.
That is our first big kind of background topic piece for this conspiracy. Our next one is going to be talking about the Large Hadron Collider, the LHC. So let's get into it. Operated by CERN near Geneva, Switzerland. CERN is it's a nuclear physics research institution developed by the European Union, so it's funded and operated through them, but is operated by many of the European Union member countries. It is held in Switzerland, which is neutral territory, so that's why they decided to host it there. Essentially, it is a collider, and a collider is a type of particle accelerator that brings two opposing particle beams together such that the particles collide. So essentially, it takes, a particle of iron and a particle of lead, and what happens if we make them smash into each other? And by particle, I'm talking atoms. I'm talking the really, really small things that make up what we are today, the subatomic level. And what they do is this collider sits in a 17-mile loop, or 17-mile long loop underground, and this allows the particles to gain a lot of speed, kind of going in a rotation order, until they point those beams at each other, and which they have a collision. And so those particles, they gather all this speed, they have a collision, and through this, physicists, researchers, they're able to study different phases of matter. What happens, in this far off cosmic place where we see pressure that's this immense to iron, what happens? Does it create a new alloy? Does it create a new atom? Why do electrons not want to ever touch? They're trying to figure out things on the subatomic level with these particle experiments. It finished construction in the year 2008 with its first successful collisions taking place in 2010, but it was shut down for renovations and upgrades in the year of 2013 to 2015. They wanted to get some new technology in and be able to run collisions at a higher energy threshold. The unit they used to measure is electron volts, which I've never heard of in my life, but they wanted to step it up to 7.2 giga electron volts. Again, these are numbers I've never even heard of in my life, so I don't know how big that is or how small that is, but that's kind of a frame of reference if we have any nuclear physicists in the chat. In the year of 2016, the collider recorded more than 380 billion collisions.
It's a lot.
That is a lot. Can you guys imagine that? Yeah.
If you could imagine that in dollars, that would fill up like 50 Costco's.
Why is Costco the reference point?
It's a giant warehouse.
In the same way everyone knows the size of a banana, everyone knows
that's
the size
actually
of
kind of true. It's
Yeah.
Love that. All right. Well,
standardized American measurement system.
The theory that I'm going to present to you guys tonight and have some evidence to back up and stand for is as follows. Little brain blast moment. During the year 2016, the CERN LHC created a micro black hole during one of these 380 billion collisions, merging our reality with another parallel universe. Now, I know you're out there, you're thinking, what the fuck did you just say, Ryan? How do you even expect me to believe the things that you are saying coming out of your mouth? Well, I have supporting evidence. Don't you worry.
Like this.
Let's get into it. Evidence. The Sacramento Kings have not won a playoff game since the year 2004. Second piece of evidence. Parasite won the movie of the year over Once Upon a Time in Hollywood in the year 2020.
Wait,
Again,
the Netflix Parasite
did not happen in the correct prime timeline that we were in prior to the year of 2016. Third note, Jimmy Carter did not make it to 101 years old.
My fault.
This
Sorry.
one was partially Hatch's fault.
My fault.
Fourth note, the Oakland A's are leaving Oakland. Again, absolute catastrophe in my life, and something that the prime timeline that we should be in, it would never take place in. Now, I know what you're thinking. Ryan, what the fuck does any of this mean? You're talking about your sports teams. You're talking about the Oscars. None of this is actually real evidence for your theory. And you're right. You're right. But I do have three big pieces of evidence, and I think these pieces, they matter a lot. The first one, it happened in the year of 2016. It was a completely revolutionary thing that happened at the time. It was unforeseen. No one believed this was going to take place or happen, but it ended up taking place anyways. And ladies and gentlemen, that is the first election of Donald Trump.
Holy shit.
Yep. It's your man who hugs you the way he hugs that flag. So Trump's election win in 2016, it was historic. Now, I know looking back on it, we've all been thinking different things, and I'm not trying to get political here. I don't care about the politics, but I am going to bring up the statistics of it. People going into this election, he was behind at every single poll by about 10 to 15% of the vote on average. Elections are won by 0.2%. That is a huge margin of error. They believed that there was no way this man would have any chance. The other thing, sports books. At one point in time, sports books had him at 14-1 odds. You could get $14 back for every $1 you placed on Donald Trump winning the election during the year of 2016. Now, as we know through our Kiergo exploits, sportsbooks aren't wrong. They generally know what happens in the world, and they're pretty good at predicting it. So this one definitely stands out a lot to me. It's crazy that they were giving that good of odds for something that didn't end up happening. And the other thing that was kind of crazy with this election, his opponent got very confident. In fact, she got so confident that she would win, that she went on to tweet this. As you can see on the screen now, happy birthday to the future president. Of course, this was a tweet by Hillary Clinton of herself as a child saying that she was, going to be the future president. And of course, as we know now, that's wrong. But this is a tweet you make if you are 100% certain you know what the outcome is. You don't do this, thinking that Marshawn Lynch is not going to make it in when you're on the 1 yard line and you throw a pass because you're fucking Pete Carroll. You make the worst play call in the world. We'll go past it. The other cool thing about this Hillary Clinton tweet, it does exist on one of our friends, Laszlo Lopez.
Yep, I was trying to say that.
You find him in the wild, you find it on his thigh. That is a real tattoo that exists. We love you, Scott. We love you, buddy.
That is amazing.
Moving forward, Trump
Lopez
winning his
guy.
first
That's
election was seen as a just jaw-dropping upset, something that was never seen before, something that no one predicted could happen, and the first of many never-before-seen events that took place after CERN fired the LHC up back in 2016. The second of those events, it's a very big one. Everyone knows about it. It shocked the world. It affected everyone's life. There's no way it didn't affect yours, and it was, of course, the COVID-19 pandemic. Little more serious than Fortnite, but Fortnite did affect us all as well. I don't disagree with you, Hatch. But the COVID-19 pandemic, obviously, it was a disease. We haven't seen a disease this viral since the likes of the 1918 Spanish flu. We have not seen such precedented world-type infection and disease spreading. The other thing is billions of dollars and billions of lives were affected by just the widespread nature of this affecting every place in the world. And whatever your thoughts and feelings on it aside, there was at least something that for a couple months put people away, and that was not good. And that, I think, happened because the LHC put us onto a alternate timeline, one that, we shouldn't have been in the first place. COVID should have never existed, and we can blame CERN in Geneva, Switzerland for that. Now, my third note, and it's another big one that I think stands out pretty well. It is this old group of fucks.
Holy fuck.
San Diego Dynasty, ladies and gentlemen. Since the year of 2016, San Diego Dynasty has been on an absolute tear. Since 2020, they have won 10 events since that World Cup event that we held during that. And in that time, their core roster was of 30 to 40-year-old fathers. Now, are you telling me that in the prime timeline we were in, where we were watching Dynasty and football jerseys just get absolutely mercied at, NXL events in Vegas, do you think that all of a sudden they became the greatest team in the world again, just overnight by happen chance? You're telling me that 500-year-old Ryan Greenspan and 400-year-old Alex Frazier still had the bones and joints to put it together like that? No, my friends, I tell you that we went to a parallel universe where those men had some additional things helping them out, maybe some some adamantium, some additional steroids and supplements, but there was something in that external universe that we came into that helped Dynasty push such a good recent successful streak here. It does seem to be coming to an end, so maybe the CERN collider has brought us back to the correct timeline. That could be something that we visit in the future. But for today, ladies and gentlemen, in summary, I have to remind you guys that since 2016, when CERN turned on their upgraded LHC, there have been a number of unprecedented and never before seen events on a global scale, leading to the conclusion that we have entered an alternate timeline caused by the micro black hole formed during the 2016 LHC collisions. Ladies and gentlemen, that is going to be it for my presentation tonight. Do we have any questions from the journalist?
God damn it, right?
No, I like this. I like the evidence. I genuinely do think that a compelling point. It came out a year. It came out. Okay, it was being tested in 2016.
Presentations make everything so much more believable. I'm sorry.
No, I agree. No, you're right. And one thing that I was saying that happened in the year 2016, because technically it was, released early in that year, dude. Fortnite, bro, that genuinely was released in 2016.
That's
and
true.
That shit really did change the whole world of
Games
gaming.
is not from our timeline.
No,
that's all I gotta say.
You're right, Ryan. You're absolutely right. Because you know what? Epic Games was making fucking Gears of War before then, and now look at them making fucking Spider-Man, Master Chief, and Kratos fucking fight over a crown in Battle Royale. What the fuck is happening? Dude, Ryan. This is a serious hitter. I like this one.
I appreciate that. Also, weren't you the one writing for Fortnite like 4 months ago on the show?
Yeah. But I do like Fortnite.
All right, that didn't sound like you liked it there.
I'm in big.
But yeah, guys. So I guess any questions?
Wow. Honestly,
what do we think?
when you were bringing up the CERN and 2016 and whatnot, I honestly thought you were gonna go with like maybe the accident that the guy like stuck his head into the machine or whatnot, and then
that was Spider-Man:
right?
No Way Home.
No.
Into the multiverse. One of those.
No, like a legit accident during there at CERN, and I thought that's where you were gonna go. Absolutely not. 180 degrees.
No. I heard about this one about 3 years ago on Reddit, and like you, Brandon, it has been in my back pocket, just waiting to be pulled out. Because I read it through it. I was like, fucking, I don't know, 2 a.m. or something. I'm reading this random Reddit, and I'm like, wait, this kind of makes sense. And I forget the evidence he used, but the Trump one was a big one, and there was a couple other ones. I was like, oh, damn. Yeah, maybe we're just in the wrong timeline. That's all it is.
When was Harambe?
2016!
I forgot
oh my god!
There you go, Brandon. You just made an even
what
better
the fuck? Tell me you not deserve to die!
Okay, calm down, Hatch. You are peeking the hell out of your mind.
No, you're right, though. You're 20... Fuck, I didn't even think of Harambe's death.
Damn.
We are all Harambe.
Wow.
But,
except for Harambe.
Yeah, Nick, I guess. What'd you think, man?
I feel like I'm going to reserve judgment for the third presentation, but
okay.
I have a lot to say about both so far.
All right.
I have a lot to say about both so far.
A lot. Okay, I'm scared.
Nice.
Well, Stephen Hatch, that means you're up at the plate, man. Go ahead, take it away, brother.
Now, I want everybody to listen to this before I start. Listen to this. You guys hear that?
More.
That's some hard work right there. That's some research, the old school way.
Bitch, I made a PowerPoint. Don't tell me I didn't work hard.
No, I did the old school way, pen to paper. You know what I'm saying? So let me just say, have you guys ever heard of this? It's a place. Have you guys ever heard of this place called the Rashad Structure?
The Rashad?
The Rashad Structure. Okay, fine. Have you guys ever? It has another name. Have you guys ever heard of the Eye of the Sahara? Like, you may have heard that in some movies or something, right? You don't hear it very much though, right? It's a very
Nick's shaking his head like he knows where this is going, but I have not heard this.
No, I don't know where it's going. No, but I've heard of those things.
Right. So I'll put it in a form that this whole conspiracy, the Rashad Structure, what it really is. The Rashad Structure just isn't some fucking random meteor crater looking thing in the middle of Africa. That, ladies and gentlemen, was the capital city of Atlantis. The Rashad Structure, right? It does not make sense, right? It does not make sense to have, right? Okay, let me just say, me and my boy, we go back. You guys may know him, Plato, great philosopher. Me and him have a lot in common.
Fuck.
So, he's
beautiful.
the guy where we got a lot of this information from about Atlantis, right? And, the things he was saying is...
Well, there was also that Disney movie. I learned a lot from that.
Absolutely. But wrong. Says in the middle of the ocean. Wrong. So it is in the heart of Africa. The Eye of the Sahara, the Rashad Structure. And the way how I am going to prove it to you guys. Right? So there's a lot of stuff to dissect from here. Right? So let me just say, Plato described it as 2 of land, 3 of water. But if you look at it from the satellite imagery, 3 rings of land, or 2 rings of land, 1 ring of water, right?
If you are not looking at it right now, that is how it looks.
Yep, absolutely, right? And
quick question for you, Hatch. Just context. Where is this located in Africa?
Yeah.
Like, is it,
it is
the
in
north
it is
part?
in,
Is it
it is I would say never saw you off northwest.
northwest? Okay, so kind of the
Yeah, it's in the top northwest
Ivory Coast.
corner.
Ivory
Yes.
Coast, I think that's what it's called.
Yes, Ryan. Thank you for saying that. Ivory Coast. Thank you for saying
All right.
that.
Hell yeah.
Right. So, another thing is Plato would describe it as having two rectangle planes to the north and south. Look at it. There are two ginormous rectangles. People don't understand the scale of how big this place is. This is a place that is 100 miles long. Right? And these rectangles around them that are described are or even longer, hundreds of miles long, right? And so they were saying how Atlantis it had a lot of colors of red, blues, whites, and golds, right? And where's this place at? I gotta remember. It's so hard to pronounce. Mauritania, right? Mauritania. Big place. This is where basically the Rashad structure is. It's in Africa, but it's in Mauritania, right? That part of Africa. And in Mauritania, there was a king that lived there named, let me butcher this one, Mansa Musa.
Oh, Mansa Musa. All right.
Mansa Musa, right? Very, you learn about him in the history books when you're young. So he was known as the richest man to ever live in history. Right, there are studies that show he had more wealth than Elon, Zuckerberg, all these people combined. Right, and so there was a treaty that happened that is called the. Hold on. Something. It's like the Treaty of Resources. Blah. Right.
Treaty of Versailles.
Okay. Oh, I know.
Basically, it's like the. God damn it, dude! These words are so big, bro. I hate it.
This is why you put things on a computer, ladies and
basically,
gentlemen.
it's a Mauritania treaty where it distributes out the resources, right?
Okay.
And
this
in
was
the
like
treaty,
in like a kingdom type time, whereas like
Yes.
Mansa Musa had all this power,
Yep.
so he was like distributing resources. Okay.
right? So, in the treaty, it says that most of Europe's gold comes from there. Right, and obviously the city of Atlantis is said to be made out of gold and, Ryan, you said it, ivory. There are cave paintings. Obviously, that is a barren desert now, but thousands and thousands of years ago, it's proven that it was a lush rainforest. It's proven, and there are caves all around the Rashad structure that show cave paintings of elephants. Right, and it's a huge ivory and gold city, right? That it shows that there are people going to the mines. Mansa Musa, whatever the fuck his name is like, hey, I'm gonna give you guys all this fucking gold because I just have so much of it, right? So, and it's proven to make a paper trail all the way back to the Rashad structure. And inside of the Rashad structures it's very weird wasteland. Looks like there's white on the ground. What is that? Not cocaine, not snow.
Salt.
All right.
Salt.
Okay.
Salt, right? So, why would salt be there?
Why would
People,
salt be in the
would salt?
desert? It's
Right?
not
So
a naturally occurring
Why
mineral.
would salt be in the desert? Right? So they take some samples there, and sure as shit, they find what are they called? Exariopods or something like that, which are snails, other types of mussels. Is that what they're called? Mussels, clams, stuff like that. Ocean dwellers at the bottom of the Rashad structure, right?
So they
But
found
they're
like DNA or like what did they find that
Pure
let them
fossils.
know that? Oh,
Pure
fossils.
fossils.
Oh, okay.
absolute proof that at that point that was
At one point in
part of
time, there were salt water living creatures in that area.
right. But then people are going to be like, "Oh, dude, Hatch, what about the fucking tsunami that obviously shows catastrophic water erosion coming from the north side of Africa, going all the way through the Rashad structure, coming out the west side of Africa? How are you going to explain that?" I am going to explain that. Let me just say, first of all, so that the fossils are too close to the surface, right? And so it was pushing everything. The flood was pushing everything underground to where there is a giant piece of its sediment and silt being pushed out underneath Africa into this giant silty muckball underneath the ground that made almost like a sandbar type of thing. And they are saying that when technology improves and we can get some really deep scan LiDAR, people are willing to bet that the whole thing of Atlantis sinking was from that tsunami swooping it under, right? Going underneath, but pushing everything up, right? To where the fossils of everything that lived in Atlantis, right, in that water, would still be at the top, right? Because everything's being pushed up.
Gold as an object is heavier than water, and so if it was in a tsunami, the silt, it would go through the silt and sand and fall because it's heavier.
Exactly.
Whereas all the fossils and the living material, which is lighter, would float and come to the top.
Exactly.
And then be found.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate
there's
that.
some science here.
And the salt, that is the water didn't even. Oh my god, this is just so much fucking information all at once. Oh my god.
Hey, you're good, buddy. You're good.
I'm trying.
I'm liking this so far because I love Atlantis. It's always a cool, like, mythos that there's this city of gold under the water somewhere. So you're saying it's not under the water. It's under
under the
water,
right? And so, and this is another thing, right? So they said Atlantis was the capital of 10 kingdoms, right? And these other islands that are out. So people are like, oh, they're on islands. It would make sense that Atlantis is on an island. So let me ask you this. If a place is said to have fresh fruit, fresh everything, this is the place where people don't go to sleep. They said that Plato said Atlantis is the place where everybody is busy at all times of day, night and day.
City never
He
sleeps.
said it's the Vegas of ancient.
Basically.
Was that the quote? I think, he wrote
Yeah.
that down. This is Vegas of Greece.
My dog. Yeah, that's what he
Yeah.
said.
Dog, my guy. All right.
Me and Plato go way back. So
Also, you're telling me Jay-Z stole a line from Plato, though, because City never sleeps. Better slip you an Ambien. I'm just saying.
facts.
Dude, he's going downhill in 2025. Different conspiracy theory for a different show.
I'm gonna pull that one out. But okay, so let me ask you this: if you were a market that's selling fresh goods, why would and you're such a developed civilization, right? Atlantis is said to be incredibly advanced technologies that we haven't even seen as ourselves as humans, right? Why would you make it where everybody else is inferior to you, right? Technology wise, why would you have a market out in the middle of the ocean when nobody could even get to it? And because in the open ocean back then, that is treacherous.
Well, I see what you're saying. Like, why would
Right?
you be on like an island somewhere when you could just be in Africa, which is one of the biggest land
Exactly,
masses in
right?
the world?
And there is a so in the
Well, and
way
also, because quick question, Monson
Yep.
Musa, do you know what time period that was? Because when Silk Road trading was active? Because that would also make sense too. There'd be a
I'm not
lot of
100%
traders
sure.
moving
before
through.
that.
It's
Way.
Yeah, that one is that one is way before that.
So
for
really,
sure.
so there is no like cross planes type people. Like people aren't making connections from different civilizations really at this point.
So some people, there is a study where with Egypt that the way that the world was with Pangea, right, is that
Yes.
Atlantis, the way where Atlantis kind of was, that culture, that whole culture broke up when the continents broke up, and that's why you see pyramids in Egypt.
In
you see
Egypt,
these similar
Middle
structures
America,
like the Aztec temples, right? Where all these cultures live together, and once Pangea broke apart, now all these cultures are everywhere else, right? So where the center point was Atlantis. All that culture of building pyramids originally came from Atlantis, because that's where the technology came from, and that's why everywhere else is so dumbed down, because the only people who knew that technology were the people in the moment. And if you don't have everything at your disposal right there, and you're trying to teach the next generation, you're not going to have anywhere near the success.
I just hit my mic. It would also make sense to me too then that the most, when we think of pyramids, and certainly some of the best constructed pyramids that we found in the world have come from the Egyptians, who would have been, located very close to the remains of Atlantis or anything during this time if they, I don't know, stumbled upon technology or something like that. Because to this day, people are always like, how did copper tools make this? Like, what the hell? Copper breaks.
Aliens.
It's fragile. It's not good.
Yeah. So.
Or it was Atlantis, Brando.
Yes, right. And so, let me just say, first of all, so this tsunami originally, this is like a fucking Noah's Ark biblical sized tsunami, right? This is like some shit that people probably came up with a religion off of this tsunami.
Realistically, it probably was a meteor hitting somewhere in the middle of the ocean. Because that's how a lot of the
I don't know. That no conspiracy. I gotta check on that one.
It would make sense though, because the amount of energy it takes to create a tsunami is massive.
Right, and so let me also just say, people are like, oh, well, that tsunami happened millions of years ago. Well, let me just say how that's wrong. Because there is a volcano.
It was 6,000 years ago.
No, so there's a volcano that is called, hold on. Sorry. A lot of notes here. Why am I looking at it?
Mount Etna?
It's called Emi Kuzi. It's a volcano. It's a volcano that's it's the closest volcano to the Rashad structure. And back not that long ago, it was active, right? Lava was leaking out, and then the tsunami hit. And it is showing that all this water was pushing so fast that the water from the tsunami is touching the lava and is pushing it that much farther to go underground and create the Mauritania slide. That's what the thing of silt underground is called, is the Mauritania slide.
So I'm putting together what you're saying. So you're saying essentially there was like an active volcano that shifted tectonic plates, which then caused a tsunami. So not only was it a volcano that was falling on Atlantis, it was also the weight of the ocean too, kind of. Is that what I'm putting together?
Well, so one thing is with the volcano, with the way it was erupting, is that when the water's touching it, it's just creating a kind of wall where if the water's not just absolutely plowing over it, it's going to be bouncing off and it's rerouting towards, that next area. You know how if you put a barrier where water is, it's going to deflect the water.
Yeah, it's just going to be lazy and find an easy route.
Then that water eventually started going towards the Rashad structure. And Plato said that the city of Atlantis did sink. And
he said it did sink, or didn't it? You broke up right as that.
It did sink. It did sink.
Okay.
Right. And I don't think it sank underwater. Yeah. I think it sank in the ground. And that's why if you were to look at the eye of the Sahara from space, it literally looks like the culture of the Egyptian of Ra, the eye. Right. Obviously there's some sand over it and stuff like that, right?
But I kind of see what you're saying.
People make that comparison because it's like,
I could see how a person on Instagram could draw this into looking like the Eye of Horus. Eye of Horus.
Yes, thank you, Eye of Horus. And there are so many salt pits around that were pushed upwards from the tsunami and the silt. So all these things that were on the or not entirely on the surface are being pushed to the surface, to where these archaeologists don't even have to work that hard to pull out sea creatures in the middle of a desert.
Okay.
So,
all right. Well, damn. So, yeah, I like it. Essentially, the theory, to me, what I'm picking up, it seems that, Atlantis wasn't in the ocean. It was in Africa, and it was through the cause of a couple, God-type moments, earthquakes, tectonic plate shifting, tsunamis happening, that it eventually kind of sunk, but not in the way that we all think it is. I will say this. Atlantis is one of those ones that, it has been talked about as long as there's been people. Yeah. That it existed, bro. Or there was just someone who's really good at making a lie up a couple million years ago and we just believed it.
Another little fact, right? So the most recent map that said that where Atlantis was, it's called Herodotus. That's the map. And there's Pomponi. It's like Pomponi Malay. That's the name of the map.
What which civilizations made those maps? Do you know, were they English? Were they?
I'm pretty sure they were. Okay, sorry. This is from the Roman Empire.
Roman era, okay.
Right, this is from the Roman Empire, right? And so they both drew maps of Atlantis in Africa.
Okay.
Right, so it's just a very interesting thing about how.
Yeah, so it's just saying that. Okay, no, I'm putting together what you're putting down here.
Right. There's just a lot of factors that show that the way that Plato is just everything that he's describing doesn't sound like anything that we've seen on an island. It sounds exactly like the Rashad structure. Exactly.
Yeah, the way that he saw Atlantis, or what he thought it was, does line up with what all this, all the evidence we have here.
Yes, and okay, so the gastropods. The gastropods. Right. This is an important factor. The gastropods are being carbon dated to 14 to 15,000 years ago. That's not that long ago.
No,
people
that's
are saying
not.
that this fucking tsunami happened millions of years ago. No, it was just so fast and so massive that the erosion is just that devastating.
Well, yeah. I mean,
It's not millions of years. It's just
humans have this like thing where we think we've like conquered the planet. Nah, dog. Like any moment in time, catastrophe. Yeah, we've seen in LA with fire right now. Like at any moment in time, Earth can win. Like we do not own any part of this world really. So yeah, no, that is interesting that even a civilization like potentially this super futuristic one that it wasn't even all that long ago, but all that information, just like when the Library of Alexandria burned, all that information went with it, and then we had to restart over again.
And another thing is they said that there were mountains to the north.
Flying car right now. I should put that together. Because if we had to restart with the Atlanteans, we had to restart every time, and same thing with Rome when all their knowledge was lost. So every time we've had to restart. Bro, if we get flying cars in like the next 10 years, I could already have that now. Because if we never restarted, we would have already had that technology in that, in the past. That's all I'm saying.
Back to the Future truly was accurate.
It was okay. I don't know where I was going, but all right.
But fuck, what point was I getting at?
About the carbon dating.
No,
I just like the time frame, about 15,000
all right, so
years
okay,
ago.
now I do remember. All right, so they are also saying how there are mountains to the north of Atlantis. What the fuck mountains are in the middle of the ocean? Ready for this? The mountains that are to the north of the Rashad structure are called the Atlas Mountains, named after the first king of Atlantis.
I feel like how have we overlooked that one? Like that's one that's like I feel like we all should have put that together.
They named them the Atlas Mountains after a king that was like the descendant of Atlantis or something like that. But that's why they're called the Atlas Mountains.
Okay.
So
interesting.
It makes a lot of sense that like Atlantis would be around the Atlas Mountains.
So, and how long have they been named the Atlas Mountains? Do you know?
I'm gonna look that up right now as we speak.
I got
When
you.
were the Atlas Mountains discovered?
Okay, so interesting.
1904.
1904. Well, all right.
Is that it?
No,
that real?
I didn't look it up. No.
God damn. That's
why I was like, wait, someone probably just made this up then at this point.
Yeah.
Like, I can't tell. It's like, what? If we named it after the king of Atlantis, I feel like we know where Atlantis is. That makes no sense to me.
So this one is, the Atlas Mountains were this one says formed. All right, I'm trying to look where they were discovered. I typed in discovered.
They were formed when Atlantis was ruined. I think we figured this out. Come on.
I like that. So, all right. So then why is it just within the readings of it being of Atlantis sinking, why people thought it was in the sea, in the ocean?
Yes.
Because Plato described it as sinking, and he didn't realize that he should probably be specific as like sinking into land.
Right. And there's this whole other conspiracy about the whole way that they were interpreting the Greek mythology, right? How Poseidon was actually just like they were breaking down the word Poseidon and everything like that, and they're like Poseidon was basically just another form of Mother Nature. Like that was just another word for Mother Nature.
Yes. Well, many of the gods have some form of like, I mean, there's like Dionysus, who's, the god of wine and like horticulture. And then, you have, like the Poseidon, who's the god of the sea and stuff. So I don't know. I feel like that's just that was like their way to make things make sense to them a little bit of like, there's
I feel like when you're asking so many
all these different things.
Yes. When you're asking so many questions like that, you're like, well, it has to happen for some reason. Something has to be causing this.
Yeah.
So
it probably gave you some relief when you were, in that time period to think that there's some higher being when life is shitty and miserable as it is every day. Because life wasn't fun until about 50 years ago. Like it really has been rough majority of history.
And for a lot of people, it still ain't good. We're blessed. We're blessed.
But I think you're at least getting the point I'm making. Like,
For sure.
You want to live in a time before like bathing existed? I don't.
Hell no, bro.
Absolutely not. Before
That doesn't sound
penicillin?
fun to me.
Dude,
Yes,
I
would like
smell rank
penicillin.
after a paintball practice. I couldn't imagine going to bed and waking up and going to bed and waking up and going to bed and waking up like that. I could not
Be
imagine.
miserable.
Yeah.
But,
So, all right.
yeah,
so,
okay.
so this theory is it? When did this theory that Atlantis wasn't in the sea? It's in Africa. It's when did this come to light? Like,
So-
or become popular?
So I would say the first time this ever became popular was this guy. What is his name? His name is Jimmy Corsetti. And this is his kind of thing where he's like putting all these pieces together through research and everything, going, checking the land.
So
And
he's an Atlantisologist.
I would say
something like
he. I mean, fuck, I don't even know. Let me look at this.
He's just Indiana Jones. Oh, my bad.
So he's an independent researcher. He's
Not
an
Indiana
army
Jones,
fraud.
okay.
Army fraud. He's an army vet
Army
from Iraq. He's an army vet from Iraq. That's what I meant to say.
Those are two different things, Hatch.
Former fraud investigator.
Okay.
Okay, again, don't leave out the investigator part. Like, very different connotations.
Yeah.
But yeah. All
So,
right. Well, I love that. Here's the part I am excited about now, because audience members sitting out there, you're probably thinking to yourself, "Well, I have some questions. I want to, ask this. I want to, see what they have to think about that." Well, we have someone here for you guys. We have Nick Levial, who's been a silent third party the whole time. So, Nick, just first things first. Where's your brain out after hearing all three of those theories?
I love it. I definitely have a lot of directions to go in some of that. I'll start with Brandon.
Okay.
Okay.
Like, this is I'm gonna go like how I felt about it, my judgments after, and we'll go around the horn. But Brandon, I was impressed with your presentation. I do like the replacement theory for a lot of different people. I think that you hit on a lot of things from physical to artistic to motive, which I think is really important for an individual. And I think that you found a good way to address all of those. That being said, I'm a big proponent in people's body language, their voice, and their fingerprint on artistry. Personally, I don't see the physical comparison between the two of them.
He did a good job.
So if he did a
Plastic
good job,
surgeon.
respect. Plastic surgery may have been way ahead. I think the hardest thing I have to hold on to for that one is motive. I think that when people are very stubborn artistically, if they are going to go the other way, they go super camp, because it's very hard for people to leave those laurels and to fully sell out, I think would have been under the same name. And so I personally just don't see it. I love the replacing of people in different, everything from clones to plants, and all of that. But between those
Body
two
doubles.
specifically, body doubles, I think that if the music industry wanted to do that, they probably would have done it under the same guise, and I think that's happened before in a lot of different people.
Yeah.
To go into the Weezer stuff, I thought some of the best points were, Weezer own music, and then also having certain nods in lyrics towards
So it's Buddy
disagreeing.
Holly and kind of, yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
Like some of my favorite conspiracies in terms of those type of people, or if you look into Chris Cornell lyrics and stuff like that, there's a lot of hints and occult stuff. But in terms of Weezer, personally, I just don't see it, but I love it as a theory. I'll have to go deeper into that one.
For sure.
I loved it, Brandon. My biggest thing, and it was when you said it, it instantly popped up, was that's just not Kurt Cobain. Like,
Yeah.
his whole thing was fuck the man. Like, that was literally his whole direction in like grunge and kind of taking that scene and eventually becoming disillusioned with music and wanting to get out of it because he no longer liked it. It's just too hard hard to see how a man with such strong morals, literally, like, I bring up the MTV thing, but look it up, guys. Like, they wanted him to perform his song, and like he just makes a mockery of them in front of it because it's commercialization of his music. So yeah, that was kind of the one for me that was hard. But
that's the only thing I'm missing too is motive. And
yeah,
so,
there's so much
that's the
other
hardest
good
part.
evidence. That's the unfortunate thing.
I've seen clips of Kurt going like, "Who the Madonna's selling her tickets for $30? Hell no!" You know. And he's just saying how he just wants people to enjoy his music instead of like going capital with it. You know.
Yeah, and I agree. I agree with you. You know, the motive's
I like
hard.
it though, Brando, a lot.
But I think that's also what makes it so interesting in the fact that it's not him, right? It's because if it is true, you know, it's like fucking.
Or I also see what you say too, like, you know, if we bring in the hypothetical of him wanting to get away from Courtney Love, being like maybe thinking his only out was to redefine himself completely as a person.
Fake his death.
That's such a hard motive. Like, that's the only motive of the reasonable is something with Courtney Love. But the problem was he was infatuated with Courtney, and that's kind of what fucking ended up killing him. So
that space and time and the death, I think that provides opportunity, and so I think you presented that perfectly well, especially with like the college and that separating time. The timelines are good. You presented really good timelines, and
For sure.
like the opportunity right there.
Yeah. All right. So it's.
I enjoyed it. Round of applause, Brandon.
Yeah,
With the layman,
I
I
think you
think
did good research on that. You did good research on that.
That presentation gets 2 big booms.
Boom! Boom! Fucking love that shit. Oh, sorry to hear about your brother just died. He gets 5 big booms.
5 booms. That's the
I
worst
love
clip
that
ever.
clip, bro.
All right, well, let's move forward. I would second. So, Nick, what do you think about the Large Hadron Collider?
So, the collider itself, I mean, first off, I love alternate universe theories, wrong timeline theories. I think the Hadron Collider is super sketch. I mean, they have a statue of Shiva, who's a Hindu god of destruction.
There are some weird things. I was looking into it the last couple days. It's just weird.
It goes super deep. Their logo is 3 6s combined. I mean, it is a very questionable thing. In terms of that, there was a little bit of a convoluted, like, are we going into the timelines or are we going into the Hadron Collider? And I think that if we're going into timelines, the Hadron Collider could definitely describe that. And your slideshow, money, transitions and everything, that was really cool.
Had to cook those up.
I feel like in the first slide of points, they were hilarious, so there was a great humor in there. I wish that you had went into a little bit of what those like alternative timelines could mean, like in terms of like the Mandela effect, like what that's changing in this time for people that, I don't know, are sitting on the fence. Like, let's say the Fruit of the Loom logo or the Berenstein Bears, like
I see what you're saying. Almost, I could have brought in some of the Mandela effect conspiracies to kind of help make this one more solid.
100%.
To be like, that would explain why Fruit of the Loom changed to us, or okay.
Exactly.
They had a cornucopia, I swear.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that being said, like there's like a story of why Muslims memorize the Quran, because they talk about the jinn a lot, and the jinn are these magical creatures that can
spirits.
Change. Yeah,
I know a lot of lore about jinn.
We've been talking about softcore history.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. But like, because jinn can't change what's in your mind, you have to remember your holy books because they can change everything around you, but they can't take your memory. And so that sort of explains the Mandela effect. And that also sort of explains the weird things around the Hadron Collider. And so I love that theory. Like, are we in the wrong timeline? And I think that there can be a lot of directions to go through to bolster that point. I think that like maybe the Trump stuff or whatever might sway people away from getting people in their feelings versus in their like their logical side.
And that's also why, you know, I didn't want to bring up any of his stuff recently, because whatever you think of him recently, that's fine. But when that event happened in 2016,
it lines up with the timeline.
Well, that, but also try to think back to you in 2016 hearing that happened. It it was unprecedented. Like people were like, wait, you're fucking like he fucking won? What the fuck? Like I thought it was Hillary. Okay, well shit. So and that's why I wanted to bring that one in, because I think it was a great example of like such a shock in the face of like, whoa, we all thought this other thing would happen, but this other thing did. Damn, that's crazy.
With the sports betting stuff, like I love that as a bolstering example of like no one's predicting this stuff. And it's like, are we in the wrong timeline, or have we changed timelines through all of the things that you brought up? Like, or do we keep changing timelines?
Because they keep doing collisions.
Yeah.
And again, these things weren't happening as much until they did their 2-year break of upgrading and making their laser even more powerful to the, I think, 7.8 electrojoule or whatever I was, describing earlier. But yeah, it seems like there's... Crazier. Because, I mean, dude, 2012 was kind of normal. Like, it wasn't that crazy. But then, yeah, 2016, shit happened. And
I remember when the war was supposed to end in 2012. You guys remember that?
Due to the Mayan character?
Yeah, but...
Mayan calendar?
I didn't feel like that one, like... Yes, there was people who believed it, but it didn't feel like this widespread type,
cultural thing.
Yeah, like, I do feel like today there's a lot of people who look around and just go like... What happened, man? Like a decade ago, life was this way, and now it's not at all.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, there's a lot of depth to go into that one, so I love that theory. That's a good one, and I like the matching of it with the hadron too, because like that provides cause,
the kind of inciting incident of what could get us into that timeline.
Absolutely, no, that's a sick one.
I wish I would have made a PowerPoint for myself.
It was 4 hours that honestly was not worth it, but I'm glad I did it.
No, honestly, I would have stayed on track way more because my ADHD got me, and I'm like fucking scanning all my notes.
I did a full run through before the show too, so yeah, I was ready to go.
That was good.
No, you nailed it. Like the humor, the facts, and also like I mean, I think Rick and Morty might be one of the best shows ever made. And it is the best explanation of how multi-universe and timeline theory kind of works, and how those realities can mingle and interact with each other, but then everything else is changed around it. It really, for being such a stupid show at times, it can be so deep at times. But then they fired their main writer and everything changed. I mean, I love to think about the whole everything, everywhere, all at once type of deal. And, there's a lot, I mean, there's infinite ways to explain it. But, like, when we're talking about, like, moving from one to another, it's like our souls, the vehicles, and the decisions that you make are actually you moving through those different realities. There's a lot of ways you can go with that. But I guess
there's also... The other good point is like dreams, how those are kind of a peek into other realities that are very similar to ours, or maybe they're not similar to ours. That's where you have those weird lucid dreams and stuff. But
because where are those thoughts and images coming from? Yeah,
somewhere. And it's hard to believe that it's all just your brain's creativity who's like pulling out these incredibly realistic pictures that sometimes seem like they come to life, in the future, the deja vu type moments. So yeah, there's a lot to go down there. I respect your conspiracy theory knowledge, Nick. You get a tip of the cap from me. But yeah,
I got you.
All right, what do we think of hatches?
Okay, so first time I've heard of the Rashat structure, which is pretty cool. But a couple notes that I had with that one was the fact that it's in Mauritania, which is an interesting thing, even though it's not spelled M-O-O-R.
It's M-A-U-R, right?
It is M-A-U-R. But I think there's a lot of things that happen with spelling and translation. And
that's yes. With the way that everything is translated, that was translated hundreds of times by hundreds of people,
Yes, but I think that, like, the stories that are told verbally are the ones that, like, stay. And so I'm a big proponent of... the way things sound are usually closer to one another. And so the Moors, M-O-O-R, are people that are from that region. The Europeans used to call them the black and the white Moors because they were like the Moroccans. They're sort of different colors. But they have this crazy, deep kind of hidden history thing with them. But because I love hidden history. But there is kind of marks of them all over the world in times that they're not supposed to be, the Americas included, and sort of having their hand in all sorts of things, from like the Crusades to finding America to founding all sorts of things. But the fact that structure is within their sort of kingdom, I thought was pretty interesting.
That's very suspect. I see what you're putting 2 and 2 there, because... Yeah. No, because I didn't know all the Moor lineage, but I did know, like, I've heard of that civilization before.
Yeah.
But hearing that, like, their footprints have been on most of the major kind of pushing advances of the human race, like things like making the journey to America and, settle civilization and stuff like that. Yeah. Yeah, maybe I don't know. Maybe they were the richest people in the world. Fuck.
Strange stuff. And so, like, I've been into trying to figure out like what the deal was with Atlantis for a long time, because it's such a prolific story told by such a reputable source. And it's brought me into things like I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Bach saga, but it is basically the story of the world and the creation of humans from the northern Scandinavian perspective, pre-Christianity.
Okay.
But the way that they describe their old kings and queens that basically populated the entire earth, they structured their city very similar to Atlantis, the concentric rings. And they also constructed their kingdoms by rings. So each
class.
well, each
like
prince that the king would send to these other places to teach them farming, mathematics, all these sorts of stuff, would also create cities of concentric rings. And that was basically their power structures around the world. And from their perspective, they basically, after the first ice age, repopulated the earth and brought civilization back to the world. And that Christianity came and destroyed a lot of that stuff. That being said, that area specifically was one of the first places that they supposedly went.
The Rashad structure? Is that what you're saying? Or?
Well, not the Rashad structure, but the area around it, Northwest Africa.
Yeah, okay.
And what was my next thing on that one? And
there's just so much.
I'm obsessed with old maps, and there's a lot of old maps that have some very weird things that shouldn't exist, like people that knew about Antarctica way before, like as a landmass, way before we had any idea of Antarctica, and the North Pole being a very specific giant mountain with 4 rivers running into it. And so looking at Herodotus' map and having that area be called Atlantis and the deep history of Herodotus' map, also weird red flag.
Right.
And then also those mountains above being called Atlantis, or sorry,
Atlas Mountains.
Super weird red flag, because that same civilization would have called their king that came from the kings basically the Aesir, which is the AE in most languages, where I guess Lord of the Rings would have gotten the elves, but they all started with A. And so that's why Atlantis might have come from that, because it would have been an A.
Atlantis.
But it was almost like a naming convention of sorts. Like, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of word connotations that come from it. Something I thought when I was reading that book that was very interesting, the way that they structured their alphabet was a circle.
Mm-hmm.
And so then when they told their stories, that if you were to read the story, it wouldn't make sense if you didn't tell it in this certain rhythmic circuit. Exactly. There you go.
Whole thing. I mean, I have a rune on my chest, but yeah,
nailed it.
The runes would show around the entire picture, and then there would be something in the center usually.
And so if you were to look at, that's the canoe.
Mine? That's the vestigial compass, yeah. So it's the compass that they would use, or it was this rune that they would put on clothing, boats, just on themselves, and they would think that it would be Odin guiding them home if they couldn't find their way.
So that being said, that symbol coming from that same group of people, if you look at it from an overhead perspective, could be the center expanding out onto the world. And so, like,
I see what you're saying as well.
Like, look at a lot of from
that's how they build their civilizations. Like, that's how their language also developed, of like that same, like, everything comes from the center out, kind of.
Yeah. Okay. Absolutely. And so,
yeah, I mean, that's
that
wild.
as a theory.
I guess other question about that, would that be, would those people be the people who crossed the frozen land bridge from Russia to, Alaska to be the first people to kind of settle the western side of the world. Because that is kind of theorized, like that's how humans got over during the Ice Age. Russia and Alaska, they were able to, everything froze over. So people started exploring more, looking for food and ways to survive. And eventually they were then stuck there after the Ice Age ended and that land bridge defroze or, thawed out.
Well, from their perspective, the way that they view it is, so the second Ragnarok, which is like the destruction of the world, would have been the Ice Age, and basically they all got stuck in a pocket and had to figure a whole bunch of stuff out because they didn't have land that they could grow on. So they figured out like basically hydroponics, farming, created all these hybrid animals that they could live off of, sustain. They had a lot of time, created mathematics. Ice started to melt. The first place that they went was down the jet stream. And let's just say you can go really deep into this. I won't go deep into it, but Florida is really weird from their perspective.
Florida's
I could
weird
have told
for
you
a lot
Florida
of
was
reasons,
weird from my perspective.
Yeah. But there's a lot of their stories that would have said that North America would have got settled from the east, not the west.
Okay.
But either way, hidden history is one of my favorite things. Like, there's so many weird structures and timelines that are questionable. I think a lot of that stuff got covered over by the Catholic Church specifically.
No, I actually think you're 100%
Oh,
right.
you're talking. You mean the Roman
There was-
Empire that's disguised as the Catholic Church?
Nailed it.
But was it a period of
The funding.
Reformation, what it was called, where they literally were just kind of rewriting history to essentially like to cement Catholicism as like, the world's religion, supposed to be the most, popular thing. Yeah, dude, the church fucked a lot of shit up.
We're lost without the Library of Alexandria, bro. We're lost. We have no idea the information that we could have had, bro.
That is one of the biggest what ifs. What is the
I agree
timeline
completely.
where you
That
don't
is my
lose the
Roman
library?
Empire.
Yeah,
That is my Roman Empire for sure.
What
Library of
knowledge was
Alexandria.
in there that will never, that we lost?
Right, because
Greek fire was in there, motherfuckers. Do you know what Greek fire is? It was napalm before we even knew what napalm was.
well, because the thing is, the royal family of the Roman Empire, they were obsessed with knowledge. So the first people to find out about the Rashad structure, like after everything, after it had already been sank, was the Roman Empire. He sent people over there was to check that shit out.
Well, think about this, because it makes a lot of sense. Nick, you talked about during the Ice Age, humans had a lot of time to just essentially do nothing, sit, think, grow, kind of crazy
Push-ups,
things.
baby.
Which is, and Hatch, when you bring up the Roman Empire, well, they already had taken over so much territory that they were able to start to rest on their laurels a little bit, which led to their, their demise. But what came from that was future, jumps in technology, being able to figure out, hey guys, if we like put, lime and some stuff together, we can make concrete, and then we can build water ducts that bring water into our farms, and it's a lot more efficient. And those are things you don't think about when all you're thinking is, we need to take their village, all right, siege them, circle around. So it is funny, and during these periods of peace that we see in history, advances in technology are made rapidly, but then they're lost again usually right after that, because someone comes in and wants to change it. I mean, we saw it even in World War II with Hitler burning books.
Because knowledge being power is such an interesting thing, because it's really hard to tell when things are innovations or leaps forward or re-engineering or reintroductions of things. And
like changing the names of semi-pro paintball, some things you don't need to change.
Some things,
Are you talking about pro elite, bro? Dude, I was this close to getting
For
my
about
pro
30
spot
seconds,
the cringiest
you
way.
were a pro elite member of paintball.
And let me tell you, bro.
Gym Rat, you had a great story on that, buddy.
Yeah, that actually, I was like, if this is the way how I get labeled pro, this is the most disgusting, icky, yucky way I could have possibly imagined it.
Yeah, it was sort of disrespectful from top to bottom. I think the only change that
100%.
I agreed with was like intro.
Intro
I
makes a
agree.
lot of sense.
And honestly, don't hate me,
That's like
but the
3-man for
amateur
me.
A and amateur B stuff, I didn't hate, because it kind of makes sense. It's a throwback to old paintball.
Yeah,
like, I
it used
get
to
what
be
he
that
was
way.
thinking there, and like, I get people don't like it, but okay, you're Division 3. You are still an amateur. Most people in
then-
Division 3 aren't getting paid to play paintball. That's
But
kind
they
of...
do They do the back in the
Most
day rule where it was
pro
called like
people aren't paid to
novice.
play paintball,
you know?
but the point still stands. Yeah, no, I agree. But I just wanted to bring that up. Tom, again, just got to give you a little shout out there, buddy. Yeah, glad you changed your mind. Going back to conspiracy stuff, I did want to bring up kind of a special note, a little shout out. We've mentioned it before in the podcast, but one of the big kind of influences into this obviously was PKA. But another podcast that I listen to quite a lot is Softcore History. Our fourth broadcast member, Lastro Lopez, he is a part of them. He will be guests on their shows and stuff from time to time. So if you guys want to just find one that Scott's in and kind of get into it, it's a great show run by a couple guys who do a good job of, kind of like us here, but they bring a history topic every week and they go through it and have some laughs, and it's a good time. But it definitely, I wanted to give them some credit because it definitely inspired kind of my idea to bring this up tonight and have us all research a topic and bring it into the show. Guys, I had a blast tonight. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
I enjoyed your guys' conspiracies.
All of you guys were really compelling, and I thought that was a really great intro for people that, hopefully if you guys have some that's weirds, please go into it, because I think the real point is to be able to look at things critically and make decisions for yourself, because I would love if people would count in their own brain how many beliefs or ideas that they have that they created themselves, because innately they're smaller. You inherit all those things. You inherit what you believe and feel about things until you do the work to find them. And so to hear Brandon's conspiracy theory about just being hey, what you were told might not be true. That is super important to be able to make your own ideas. And I think that we're moving into such a cool era where most people now are a little more open to question those things. Mm-hmm. And maybe we'll find, instead of someone telling you that's just the way that it is, you being well, why is it that way? Why can't we do it a better way? And
absolutely. I think that some people, whenever you bring up conspiracies like this, they're like, oh, go put on your tinfoil hat. And it's frowned upon. People are immediately will shut you down just because
here's my conspiracy on that, Hatch. That's literally done by the man to make conspiracies seem as this weird outside, thing that you shouldn't be partaking in, because essentially you're just questioning the norm, and there's nothing wrong with doing that. There's nothing wrong with taking a second look at something and being well, you told me that, but I want to verify for myself what you're telling me.
Absolutely. I'm the kind of guy where I need cold, hard facts.
And I hate to say it, but during COVID, this was a lot of things that came out. They wanted to, oh, you think that might work? Well, you're a conspiracy theorist. Shut the fuck up. You don't know what you're talking about. And it's well, maybe he's wrong. Maybe he's right. I don't know. But at least he's thinking for himself. And I think they were trying to slander it as this bad thing when really it's just this taking a critical look at events like JFK and being okay, 2 and 2 does not make 4 here. So why, what is the real explanation, or what could be a real explanation?
It's wild to me, the connotation that has been built for people that conspiracy means just not true.
Yes.
I try to explain to people sometimes, it's have you ever been in a group of friends and you guys want to do something and that there's one person in the group that doesn't want to do it, but instead of saying, hey, we really want you to do this, you go to someone else and be hey, why don't you bring up Ben really, really wants to go see this place. And then you bring up to another friend, hey, make sure that Brandon's free on that date. And you create an opportunity for that person to be in the place that you want them to be. Well, then you're a conspirator. You've been part of a conspiracy. And, it happens on the macro and it happens on the micro. So as above, so below. Everybody who is a social person.
No, but that's literally the definition of conspiracy. Yeah. All it means is a group of people thinking together to do an action. That's kind of, a very base level, but it doesn't mean government or, secret dark rooms, but that's the connotation that's been given to it by a lot of how people present it in, more mainstream medias and stuff of that sort.
And it's you understand just in a social group that not giving all the knowledge to somebody gives smaller people in that group power if they don't know something's going on. And so of course that's happening on a large level, that we're social creatures. And so to write off people doing that at a large scale because maybe you don't think that way doesn't mean that everyone's going to act in the same way that you do.
I mean, it happens publicly. We have classified information. it is known that there is
that is
stuff that the
innately a
government knows that they
conspiracy.
won't tell you because they feel like they can't for national
point.
security or people security. Like,
And then when they come out after
fuck,
25
my
years,
brother,
everything's blacked out.
yeah, I know, but
great
like, Hatch,
point.
my brother is a government top secret clearance for his job in the military. He can't talk to me about that stuff, and like that's not a conspiracy. That's just truth. Like he has knowledge that he
innately a
has that he
conspiracy.
can't. True, but I'm just saying the point of like. If that's what they do in public, imagine what they don't, want you to know. And that's kind of where I just want people to start the roll. Whatever that means to you, go look at that. But
Question.
don't just take everything. Look,
Mia,
all I know,
I'll
man,
believe it when I see
Alex
it.
Jones back in the early 2000s went to this weird place in the middle of the woods where there was an owl made out of wood and a whole bunch of people were, pawning it, and everyone said he was a liar. And then it came out that shit's real and Bohemian Grove exists. I don't know what goes on in the world anymore, okay? Shit's crazy. These boys don't know about Bohemian Grove, and it
No,
shows.
I definitely do know about Bohemian Grove. That place is used by the elite to do their rituals.
Yeah. Well, let's not talk anymore about it because I do like monetization on our podcast. It's fun to have
that's
that.
a good point.
Yeah, dude. No, hold on. You guys construed my words.
Ah,
I meant
fuck, Ash, here it
I
goes.
meant pro elite. Like paintball players go there to have some fun.
Pro
Semi
elite,
pro
elite.
paintball players go
God.
over there to shoot
It's
some
where they
fun.
get their snap drills in. Yeah, 100%.
What a clutch
we knew
shave
it.
they had. What a clutch
Let me
shave.
just
Good
say.
job, buddy.
That's the real conspiracy, boys.
But yeah, so wow. All
But
right, well,
I'm happy with the NXL for stepping back on that. Like, that shows growth. They're listening to their people. And so the fact that got put out and got taken away so fast, I think instead of people looking at that as like, oh my God, they're so dumb, you should be happy that they're listening to you.
it's a big
Absolutely.
step up from past events and how things happened in the past. So
Like
you make a great
when-
point there.
When True Semi came out, bro, I did not hear a single pro saying anything good about it.
That's very
We're
Not
back to
a
Truth
s-
on my hash. God damn it.
I'm just saying, that's just one of those things where they did not listen to their
We're
community
in a
at
time
all.
loop now. This show has been in a time loop thanks to the Large Hadron Collider. But it is
More brought
about
to
the
you by
time
Hadron.
we bring this show on home. So,
What was your favorite
ladies
conspiracy,
and
real
gentlemen, oh yeah, I guess we didn't bring that up. What
one?
was your favorite?
Which one was the most compelling?
I would say most compelling in terms of emotional, I think Brando. Most compelling in terms of presentation, Ryan. Most compelling in terms of what hole I'm going to continue going down, Hatches.
Let's go. I'm on the
Alright.
list.
Love that.
All right.
We're all winners. Everyone gets a
Let's
participation
fucking
trophy.
go. The Nick Levial Awards, episode 130. Is that what we're on? 130, 131?
129. 130's next week. But yeah, guys. Well, we got a couple things we got to do to bring it on home as we do every week. Before we do that, we got to have a cool guy of the week. Brandon, did you bring anyone prepared to be the cool guy of the week?
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
I never
Oh,
Oh,
really.
you did it?
I
God damn it, Brandon.
did.
All right,
I was
well,
so.
because you've
I
messed
got you.
up,
Hold on.
Hatch, we'll have you give us the code word. We'll give him
Now
a
here we
couple
go.
seconds here.
Look how prepared I was. All right, boys. I got it written right here. You guys probably can't see it because it's so small. There's a fucking glare.
Welcome
But-
to Atlantis.
But it says, "Welcome to Atlantis, baby."
You were writing that when I came on in. I saw
Yep,
you.
I
doing
wrote
some
I
over
wrote
there.
that before we even started, so no one can say shit about how I wasn't ready.
I love that.
Manifestation
That's a beautiful
right there.
one. Are you just gonna start doing that? You're gonna hide it behind
Yeah,
yourself
yeah,
and then
I
just be
am.
like, "That's it."
Yep.
Love
Boom.
that. All right. Well, Brandon, did you have time to gather your cool guy of the
Yep.
week?
I'm trying to copy
This
this
is
link
just
so
the
I can
thing
send
that
it
you
over to
do
you
every
guys
week
right
on the
now.
show.
No,
You're
I had
lucky
it
that
ready.
I can't control cool guy of the week, bro.
Shut up! I had it ready. There
If
you go.
you
I just
control
sent
cool
the
guy of the
link.
week, it would not
All
be
right.
great.
Hey,
It would be
this is
fantastic. You're right.
cool guy of the week. Let me get the pronunciation right. Gavin.
This one?
Teicher. Oh no. Gavin. I'm just gonna call him Gavin. All right.
Gavin.
May Gavin. This guy was kicking out
Video has no sound.
someone
okay.
out of their jujitsu gym, and
I'll just
the
say
guy-
this: the video starts. The security footage says 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu Indianapolis. Okay, something bad's about to happen.
The caption starts with
This-
"Jiu-Jitsu saves lives."
Yes, this 18-year-old gets attacked by this guy that he was kicking out, and 18-year-old like defends himself, it fucking gets him on the ground, pounds
beats
him
the
real
shit
quick.
out of him.
Yes, and
Yeah.
then gets the rear naked choke. Chokes
Oh,
him
let
out.
me just say, I like the strat of pulling him behind the corner so you really can't tell how hard you're hitting him. I like that
Yeah,
strategy.
I was like, she goes out of camera
I
view
like that
towards the
one.
end of that video.
My
Damn.
mom would do that shit when I was a kid.
God God, we learn more terrific things about your childhood every week, Hatch.
We're just gonna leave that as
man.
that's a conspiracy. That's what we're gonna leave it as.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, I can't see the Mama Hatch doing
But
that.
yeah,
She's
so
so
shout
sweet.
out Gavin
Gavin.
Tiatcher. Instagram's Gavin TI Archer 10 PMMA. A horrible Instagram title, but if you guys want to find it,
Why
that's
the
where it's
fuck
at.
would you want to fight somebody outside of an MMA gym, bro? Are you
That's
stupid?
what I said.
I
It
don't-
says 10th planet. Like you're
A
gonna
grown
Oh
lose.
ass
my
man.
fucking god, bro.
A
That
grown
guy
ass
must
man
be on
going
drugs
after
or
him.
something.
That's
but
just
not good enough to where he's
reading, not
overpowering
reading the
him.
context clues.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Big time.
All right, guys. Well, let's go ahead. Let's bring this show on home. I got to remind you guys to make sure you drop a rating for the show. Whatever platform you're on, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, please cut 10 seconds real quick, drop a rating. It helps us out a lot. I'm very proud of how this show came out. I think, these guys are as well, too. So please, it would mean the world to us. We put some extra time in. Take the 10 seconds, drop a rating, drop a 5-star review. We would appreciate it. You could also subscribe on all of those platforms. Gives you a notification when the show's out, and just like with the rating, it helps make us look good, and it's completely free to do. So I feel like that is an even trade if we entertained you here tonight on the show. We do also have the Patreon. If you want to check out with us, get access to the show early every week, check out the bonus episodes that we do every week for our Patreon members only. You got to head over to patreon.com/Mafia_Productions. That's where you're going to get more information about that and learn how to sign up. We got free trials available, so if you want to check it out at first, see if it's worth your time, you can definitely do that over there. But ad-free versions of the show and a lot of extra bonus goodies, so go check it out. Last but not least, we got the merchandise website, which unfortunately is down right now. XXV the label is going through a complete site withdrawal, and kind of they're making everything new for 2025. So hopefully within the next couple weeks, those guys will be back up and running. But merchandise is down, sadly, for just the moment. And then we also have our sponsors. Got to remind you one more time about liquidiv.com. Promo code Mafia_Moffitt over there. We appreciate them. The great hydration multiplier. We also got NECTR Energy, NECTR.energy. Love those boys over there. The Martin twins do some great things. So appreciate their support. And last but not least, weltsclothing.com. Almost forgot them, but I didn't. weltsclothing.com. Promo code FTS over at weltsclothing.com. All right. Well, that's it for us tonight. Nick, any final words, brother? We appreciate you coming on back again. I hope
Thank
maybe
you,
we
dude.
entertained
Seriously.
your Tuesday night a little bit.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me, putting in so much work. And if you are still listening, rate, subscribe. Let's go. What are you doing? These guys are putting out great content. You're welcome.
Click all the buttons. But
Thank
yeah,
you.
at some point in NXL in the future, I got to pick your brain more about conspiracies, because I can tell there's a lot more sitting under the surface there. But
I'll be in your
ladies
pits,
and
Nick, so I'll be
gentlemen,
telling you. I'll be in the
Love
pits.
that. Love that. Love when you're in there, dude.
well, I can just imagine like you guys mercy sub team, and it's just Hatch and Nick talking about. So that's why the mountain range was called Atlantis. Like just I don't know.
Yes, dude.
Find
That's
some
how it's
connection.
mountains.
Can you make that real for the FTS page? That'd be great. All right, thanks, Hatch. But guys, let's get out of here. For my co-host Stephen Hatch, for Brando Baird, my name is Ryan Mafia Moffitt. For our special guest tonight, Nick Levial, thank you for coming on, man. And that's gonna do it for episode 129 of From the Sidelines. We're gonna see you guys on the next one. Hatch, do that thing you do.
Hi.
See you guys later.